Alma and Partners Unlimited, if y'all could turn your cameras off, please. We would like for just the committee to be on at this moment. And then when you are queued up for your part in the presentation, we will call your name and you can turn that camera button back on. Thank you.
All right, you're live and YouTube looks good.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March Housing and Community Development meeting. We are meeting especially today to review the Cdbg fund applications. All council members and staff are participating virtually today. For those of you who are out there listening or streaming, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We are streaming live in our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub at the city's website. You also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by dialing 855-925-2801, and you'll enter the code 9791. There will be no public comment at this meeting. And I would like for all applicants and presenters today to remain muted and video off until we get to your cue in the presentation. Mr. D'Angelo with the city will be announcing the presenters in an order. And when you hear your name, you can click that button back on for the video and join us. All right, so I'm going to go through and introduce all the committee members and staff that will be participating today. Council member and staff, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Vice Mayor Shanika Smith.
Good morning.
Good morning, Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good morning.
Assistant City Manager Kathy Ball.
Good morning.
Good morning. Community and Economic Development Director Sam Powers. Is he with us? I thought his last meeting was last week, so he may be on the list and not with us this morning. Economic Development Program Director Nikki Reed.
I think Nikki's got a conflict this morning, but she's going to try to pop in when she can, Sage.
Okay. And you've announced yourself, Community Development Program Director Paul D'Angelo.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. So we have a lot to do today. We have 23 applications. We're going to do, since it's virtual, it's going to be a little different. And I know in a couple meetings, last couple days, there's been some technology interruptions. So if you get lost or we need to stop and pause and let you back in, let staff know. And we will. We have 23 presentations today. And I do need a little guidance from our committee, Vice Mayor and Councilwoman Antoinette. We will have a choice to hear a presentation and have a discussion or ask questions, or to hear all the presentations and then ask our questions. Since it's 23, I'm thinking we maybe have discussion with each applicant. What do y'all think?
It's probably best to ask some questions as they're presenting.
I think so.
There you have it. That's fine.
Okay. We did that yesterday with the home funds and it flowed really well. And I think it would be hard if we had to lump them all at the end. So I appreciate that input. So applicants will have 3 minutes to give a verbal presentation. Staff, in this case, Paul, will keep the time and let you know if you're reaching your limit. Also announce each applicant before it is their time to present. We will take a short break around 10:15 a.m. And once we've finished all the presentations and had the individual discussions, we will move into a broader discussion of all applications and proceed from there. Does that sound good to everyone? Okay, let's get going. Paul, if you could go ahead and start our first presentation, that'd be wonderful.
Sure. If it's okay, if I could go through the staff report that everybody has this morning. Just want to take a bit of time with that, if that's okay. Again, Paul D'Angelo with the Community Development Division. Good morning, everybody. Councilwoman Turner, Mosley, and Vice Mayor Smith, thanks so much for being here, as well as Assistant City Manager Kathy Ball. Most of the community development team is available as well to answer questions. And a thank you to all the applicants who've walked this journey since about February 5th. We're grateful for all the applications and all the time this morning, so thank you. I am going to take a bit of time with the staff report. This is a once a year thing that happens, and each year we try to grow with sharing what we're doing and the transparency involved and how difficult these decisions can be. So with that, the Cdbg Entitlement Program provides annual grants on a formula basis to entitlement cities that and counties to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities principally for low and moderate income persons. The City of Asheville is an entitlement city. As in fiscal year 2021, City Management has asked that CD staff make the Cdbg funding amount recommendations for the upcoming funding year to be approved by HCD and then approved by the Asheville City Council as part of the HUD Annual Action Plan. When it coming to these applications, there's a lot that we think about and look at. So some of the evaluation criteria, we look at eligible activities and making sure it's meeting a Cdbg, Community Development Block Grant, national objective. We do have limited fundings, usually about twice the ask of what we actually get from HUD. We also take a look on the high priorities that were unmet in the past 5-year consolidated plan, as well as looking forward to the priorities that came out of the consolidated plan we just passed last November. We take a look at organizational capacity and experience with federal funding regulations, looking at past allocations and awards, and looking at other city roles like with the strategic partnership funds. We look at timely project completion. This goes along with the HUD timeliness test that many have heard about lately, that folks can spend the funds in an appropriate amount of time, usually 1 year for public services. The other services usually get a little more time, but a best practice is always 1 year with HUD. We've also tried to take a look at COVID's effect on our grantees, and then capacity as an organization to implement the activity and achieve outcomes. We take a look at budget. Is it reasonable? Is it timely? Are they able to leverage other federal and state funding resources and other resources in general? Are there measurable outcomes, which is obviously a big goal of these funds? Are they meeting outcome goals and numbers in the past? Have they put reasonable amounts of outcomes in the application? And is there a return on investment to potentially the program can self-sustain at some point and run on its own? We also look at duplication of services, population and community target that does not duplicate other community services, looking for partnership and coordination among agencies and community collaboration, and prioritizing unmet needs. Having 3 organizations do a very similar or the same activity versus one doing it very well is something that we take a look at. Clarity and completeness of an application, clear eligible activity, addressing staff questions and concerns. And from HUD, the application itself is a measure of the applicant's capacity. If the applicant is unable to follow the instructions or submits an application that ignores certain criteria made available, then whether the applicant can successfully administer the program is a question. And again, from HUD there, we've got our consolidated plan priorities of our high and low priorities here, whether it's new rental housing, ending homelessness, or some type of preserving existing housing, et cetera. We've got our high and low priorities from the 2025 consolidated plan. Please note that each year, community development receives requests from local agencies doing incredible and essential work in our community. We're very grateful. These funding decisions can be very challenging. The collective asks always exceeds the availability of funds that we have. Sometimes great community projects don't line up with federal regulations and can't be funded with Cdbg funds. CD strives to fund agencies in the spirit of partnership under the regulations of HUD and within the capacity of the Community Development Division. For agencies not awarded in this funding cycle, CD is working on ways to assist and build capacity of these partners and improve their chances of future funding. I think many of you know, last October, we did a Cdbg kind of outreach and training to try to get more people thinking about community development block grant funds and when they possibly could be ready. Funding allocations should strategically support the goals and priorities of the 5-year consolidated plan. In order to meet these goals, allocations should be focused investments to agencies that have the capacity to meet these challenges and outcomes. We've been able to break down a little bit of that funding and how much we have. The public services cap, always a struggle at 15% of the annual grant that we receive, and a lot of our applications come in for public services. Unlike last year, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, HUD, as of this date, has not issued any waivers regarding upcoming fiscal 2022 funding. A reminder that last year, public services were awarded above the 15% cap due to one of those waivers from HUD regarding COVID. We have the spreadsheet analysis of the funding, which we'll put up after all of the presentations. And before moving to presentations, I'm happy to answer any questions. There was a question that came in about distinguishing between the types of services. So broadly speaking, the types of CDBG activities that the city funds most often are public service activities, economic development activities, housing activities, and housing services activities. Within each of those categories, HUD requires that each activity is categorized into a box, what they call a matrix code that it has to follow along with. Economic development activities create new permanent jobs or retain existing permanent jobs that without CDBG, the job would be lost. Most often, this means providing funds or services directly to the for-profit businesses. In public services, we see activities that train and place people into existing vacancies, and that can include wraparound supportive services. And lastly, housing services can provide case management to administer home TBRA funds. We'll talk a bit about that because there were some home awards for tenant-based rental assistance yesterday that have to coordinate with these community development block grant funds. And lastly, housing, preserving existing housing or emergency home repair. And with that, I appreciate everyone allowing me to take the time to go through that staff report. I think it's really important, very difficult decisions, a lot to think about. With that, I can answer any questions or we can move to presentations.
Thank you, Paul. It's very helpful. Go ahead, Internet.
Sorry, excuse me. So I do have a question when I'm looking under recommendations and the other info I have. I see that Project Lighten Up was not included. What information can you give that's appropriate in this forum regarding Project Lighten Up, getting back to basics, and why there was an application but no award?
May I suggest that we hear from the presentations and have that broad discussion at the end? We might learn. I think what I suspect is we're going to hear from every applicant, and then each of the applicant has a set of questions that staff asked and then their responses, and we may discern from that. Would that be okay with you? Because I think I'm going to have similar questions for some, and maybe we do that at the end as a total conversation.
Well, let me follow up with Antoinette where she's going. So there are a few applicants under public service who are all academic service in nature. I'm wondering, this is my question. I'm going to put my question like this. Are we prepared to do a strategic partnership fund? Because I know that is more academically focused. It's focused on the opportunity gap.
And so I might let Kathy take that question. Right now, as you all know, strategic partnership funds went through about a 2.5 year process where in working with the community, they wanted, the goal was to focus on closing the opportunity gap. That information was available to a certain extent in the fall, and then we worked with Kathy on that. Kathy?
Sure. I think as long as we will lay out in the strategic partnership what the emphasis is, and I think Vice Mayor, you spoke to it. We would encourage those folks, they would have to apply separately through that process. But we have about $400,000 in that pot of money. And so a lot of what you'll hear is maybe that some of these folks didn't apply through the HUD guidelines, but that would not apply on our strategic partnership funds. So yes, I think them being academic and providing educational opportunities, closing the opportunity gap is what the focus is for that area.
Because there is YTL, there is Project Lighten Up, and I believe the other organization that Mr. Anderson is representing,
Partners Unlimited.
Partners Unlimited. So I was wondering, how soon are we going to be prepared to accept applications for strategic partnership funds so those folks can continue the good work?
Vice Mayor, I don't want to speak for Paul's staff has done such an incredible job at processing and getting through this work. But I say we want to open up those funds as soon as possible, as soon as we get through this process, because this was a HUD mandated. We will open up the guidance to we will open up that guidance for them and start accepting applications as soon as possible. And I don't want to pin us down to a time frame, but I would say it would be, Paul, what would you think, in the next month?
Sure, I would think probably we could do something in the next 6 weeks, give or take.
Okay, that's very important for us to make decisions on today.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And if I may,
Yeah, that's great. I didn't.
Oh, I
Go ahead,
apologize, Councilwoman Turner. If I may, as a reminder with this, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, but the timeline with these HUD funds on a best case scenario is that we get the HUD contract in October or November, and then go to contract to move the funds starting then with that reimbursement. So we're looking basically probably 7 months from now. The SPF funds, if all of that can move forward in the next few weeks, would be a quicker process. Just so you're aware of that. And just lastly, that is the best case scenario with the HUD funding. Last year was COVID. The year before that was a government shutdown. The year before that was a government shutdown. We never quite hit that October date. We wait for the contract. We're crossing our fingers this year because so far things are back to normal schedule.
Was that helpful, Antoinette? Because I think you still have questions. I kind of see some questions looming.
No, that's sufficient for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say, and when we're looking at the spreadsheet, that's just an option. We'll be able to discuss and move and as we need to as a committee. It's just a starting place. Any other questions for Paul or staff before we start this process? That was very informative and helpful for me on the SPF, so I appreciate that coming up and the timeliness of it.
I just have a comment for our community development staff. Thank you all for, again, like Chairwoman Turner said, thank you all for all of your work. It kind of gives us a good starting point because you all have asked all the right questions and prepared the applicants for this moment. But as I'm looking under public service and we have a limited amount of money to give community members, I'm also seeing organizations who are coming back consecutively, asking for large amounts of money. And as I'm looking through their application, they do have robust and diverse funding resources. So I'm wondering from this point on, if we can go to folks and say, we've been faithful in funding you, but we would encourage you to look at other funding sources because of the consecutive years of being fully funded by Cdbg and your ability to go out and find other means.
And another thing that I just noted, and the reason I chose that particular entity was because I don't see them listed on amongst the presenters. So I was curious, if there isn't a recommendation, I would still have liked the opportunity to hear from.
If Councilwoman Mesa out there, they should be on there. If it was missed, we'll certainly be calling on them. I apologize, but all the 23 should be made available. We've been in constant communication. If we missed it on the presentation list, my apologies from our team, and we'll take a quick look at that. And if we have to email the person or double check that they're online, I'm happy to do it.
I do see, if we're talking about YTL getting back, okay, so they are on the presentation. There's a lot of information here, so
yeah,
I appreciate it.
I was looking for a project and then I see it's getting back to basics. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries. There's so much here. Thank you. One last question for Paul. I'm just curious about the history. So this public services getting 15%. Is it always been that way, 15%? Does it ever change? Who can we lobby? I mean, how does that work?
It has always been 15%. Last year was the waiver due to COVID. So last year worked out. We actually had some contingency funding, like I think an extra $150,000 that we're able to put into public services, as long as they could equate it to additional COVID activities that was affecting why they could use the additional dollars, but not as of today, not this year, and it's always been 15%.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can make one more comment, Sage, quickly, just to Council or Vice Mayor Smith. Absolutely, I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Very difficult decisions because we have agencies that have been funded, but they're also producing outcomes that have been really valuable in the community. But flip of the coin, we've got some new folks who are looking for funding. I think part of our questions that come up are obviously eligibility, is it a good activity, duplication, but are they ready for federal funding and what it takes to really meet the requirements of the draw request, the contracting, the reimbursements, because it's a reimbursement. They have to put the money out and then we reimburse them. So it's a lot to think about. I'm sure as you all have this discussion, it's tough. It's very difficult. We always wish we had full funding amounts for everybody, but very valid points. And I wanted to recognize those, Councilwoman Smith.
And since we're just broadly discussing this, I wanted to link this conversation to one we're having at a council level right now, which is, we have some money that's coming through Cdbg and then being possibly voted on to spend at our next meeting. And one of the reasons that it's having to move in that way is because we have a balance in our Cdbg account. So we have program users that have not been able to spend down the money, which is affecting other things in this general pot of Cdbg. So I just wanted to point that out. The readiness in construction, we call it shovel ready. I guess in this world, we call it like check ready. Are they ready? Are they ready to implement the program they're applying for? And if not, can it create a bottlenecking of spending later down the road? And what's the risk entailed with that? I just wanted to draw those together before we get started. Any other questions before we move into presentations? Okay. Are you sure, Shanika?
No, I was just saying, I'm looking at the applicants and I know that there are people who have been doing this for at least 5 years. I've been watching this thing for some time. And I just want us to graduate, make room for new applicants, and then maybe also become a mentoring organization.
Yeah.
Understand the process, the requirements, how to make draw requests. Let's just make room for new and beautiful things, because, sometimes from our point of view, we are going to fund or be more attracted to applicants who can get the work done and not require a lot of help. But in the spirit of partnership, as we've been saying, I think we need to encourage other folks to make room for new things.
I wholeheartedly agree. I sometimes wonder if we could be doing more to help applicants understand the process and prepare. And, even if that were, I know our staff capacity is so max, but when we look at all this incoming funding and really trying to make big moves in small business, micro enterprise, equity, I wonder if there should be a position like an ombudsman for this program that really helps people walk through it. And we should maybe think about that in our budgeting cycle, because I hate to see folks that have great projects, great opportunity, great community needs, and then the administrative and the bureaucracy around it is a complicated layer. And could we be doing more to help? I appreciate your point, Vice Mayor. Any other thoughts or comments before we get started on presentations? Okay, let's go. Paul, I believe you're going to introduce and keep time.
Yes, that's correct. And we try to be a little generous with the 3 minutes, so I'll do my best there. And the first up on our list is going to be Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity with their home repairs for low-income homeowners application.
Good morning. Andy Barnett with Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity, speaking on behalf of our proposal. Vice Mayor, members of council, city staff, partners, it's an honor to be able to be here and present to you today about our home repair program. And I'm wondering if anybody here has tried to find a contractor to do maintenance or repairs lately. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of demand in our construction sector right now. So if it's tough for us, imagine being one of our low-income elders in our community and trying to keep your home maintained and in a livable condition in this market. It's really hard. What we hear from folks is it's really hard to know where to turn for low-cost repairs from someone that you can trust. And at Asheville Area Habitat, we provide those critical repairs for low-wage workers, for people on fixed incomes, so that they can remain in the homes they own safely and with dignity. And we look at the population who benefits from this service. More than 75% of those households are elderly homeowners in our community. A third are African Americans, and we know that preserving home ownership and preserving the wealth in those the asset of a home is so critical in that population. And 30% get by on less than 30% of the area median income. So this program serves very, very low income folks, people who really need this additional grant assistance to be able to remain in their homes. We do this by engaging community volunteers, private donors, to keep the cost of these repairs low. And we work hard to coordinate our services with other local repair programs to increase impact. Some of those folks are here on the call with us today. We know that preserving our existing supply of homes is a cost-effective, affordable housing strategy that helps preserve not only the value of the asset for the individual homeowner, but also the surrounding neighborhood, creating stability in some of our neighborhoods who are seeing rapid change. But we know what really matters is the way that repairs can be life-changing for our neighbors. Recently, got a phone call from a project that we completed with Joyce and her husband, and she let us know that they're able to get things done, to get around because of the work Habitat's done. They don't feel unsafe in their home or going in and out. She said she's proud to show off her home to her neighbors, and she really appreciated that our crew was diligent and interested in taking care of her and her home. I think this is the kind of community that we're trying to build. And your support of our Cdbg request will allow us to provide these critical home repairs for 16 of our neighbors, repairs that help them remain in the homes and neighborhoods that they love safely and with dignity. Thank you.
Committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Barnett?
I do. Hey, Andy, how are you this morning?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Just a couple of questions from top of mind. Do you have a home value cap? And what percentage of your work would you say is done within the city limits?
So all of these projects are within the city limits. Right now, it varies from year to year based on the applications that we receive, but in a typical year, probably a third of our projects are within the city limits, and the remainder are throughout the county. We do have a value cap on the property. We raised that recently because we did realize that as property values are rising, we have a number of folks in our community who are property rich and cash poor, so the property value might be high, but they still don't have the means to do the maintenance and upkeep that they need. So what that creates then is a deteriorating value in that home, and we really want folks to be able to hang on to the asset that they built over time.
Can you tell me what that number is?
Councilmember, I'm going to have to get back with you on that. I don't have that number on the top of my head today.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Mr. Barnett, I had a couple questions. In reading through the application, it looked like for this program to move forward, it also needed the county to approve some funding. Have you gone through that process yet with the county?
We have gone through that process.
Were you awarded?
Yes, and it's not fully dependent on that. I mean, we'll find other sources to leverage if we don't receive those funds, but we do feel like we're in a strong position for the Affordable Housing Services Program.
Great. One last question that's more of, I would like to understand the how and why. So this program covers 80%, but then the homeowner takes on a small 20% of the repairs loan at 0% interest. Is there a philosophy behind that, or why not the 100 just do all the repairs?
We do have, it is part of Habitat's philosophy that we give people the chance to participate in preserving their home in the same way that we give people the opportunity to participate in building new homes. It's more empowering, we believe, to have folks invested in that repair, and by and large, the folks that we see want to do that and are able to do that with the amount of repayment that we require. There are other programs that are full grant programs, and that may be a better fit for some people. But given again the fact that about 30% of the folks that we serve in this program are below 30% of AMI, and all of the folks that we serve in this program are below 70% of AMI. That 20% repayment isn't creating a burden for people, and it is giving them a share in the project and the dignity of knowing that they're contributing to the work.
Are there any
Very helpful.
financial assistance partner? Do you have any financial assistance partners in case a person is unable to carry the 20%?
We haven't really run into situations where that's been an issue. We do have financial certified financial counselors on our staff that could be available to work with families in that situation. We create a fair amount of flexibility around the repayment terms on these repair loans. They're loans that we manage directly and service directly ourselves. So we have a bit of flexibility to make sure that doesn't become a barrier to folks.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Just curious how long a wait list you have.
Right now, our wait list is a bit longer than normal, just because there have been some slowdowns in this program due to COVID, and there's been a real uptick in applications in the last couple of years in our program. We do try to make sure that we get to projects in as timely a way as we can.
I was asking because I was trying to figure out if the reason there is a wait list is directly correlated to funding. So if you had more funding, could you get more done? Or is that
without a doubt? Without a doubt. I will say that with the caveat of, the biggest impact on our ability to complete repairs this year has been our attention to making sure that we're not creating a risk of virus spread to medically vulnerable folks. So that we have kind of rearranged our pipeline to make sure that we're doing projects that don't put the homeowner or our staff at risk. And so as those restrictions ease, we'll be able to crank up more different kinds of projects and get through the wait list. But in a normal year, yes, more funding would mean more capacity. And about 2 years ago, we did invest in a whole, in a second crew to be able to ramp up our production, and we saw that happen.
Okay. Just as a note, we did, reserve about 5 minutes per. So in the interest of time, if there are no other questions, we'll move to the next applicant. Thank you, Mr. Barnett.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Sage. Next up is the Asheville Buncombe Community Land Trust for their permanently affordable housing services.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Zieska, and I'm the Executive Director of the Asheville Buncombe Community Land Trust. For those of you who may be new to our model or not fully familiar with it, I just want to give you a really quick overview of the Clt model that is a nationally recognized model and new to Western North Carolina. So at the most basic level, what we do as an organization is retain ownership of the land underneath the structure, and we sell the structure or the improvement to the land to a qualified buyer. And so right now we are primarily focused on home ownership opportunities and selling homes to, again, qualified buyers. But our model and our mission is really open and is broad enough where it can support commercial development, it can support apartments, rentals, multifamily housing, as well as condos and townhomes that are, again, either for sale or for rent units. And finally, we also can support community spaces, so community gardens, playgrounds, open space, things like that. So just want to make you all aware of that. As you probably know, we are a relatively new organization, but we're also a rapidly growing organization. So our request to Cdbg is to build capacity and to be able to hire an additional staff person. I was brought on last year as a part-time executive director and then transitioned to full-time this year. We also hired a part-time marketing and outreach specialist about 3 months ago. So again, this is really an opportunity for us to build our capacity and hire a construction project manager to ensure that we can oversee our construction projects for the foreseeable future and make sure that they are well done, well executed, and well coordinated. And so this position would really work with the builder and the contractors, as well as our potential homeowners, to be able to pair them with the home that works best for the family. So we are, again, looking to grow our capacity and looking to build 4 units by the end of June 2022. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Committee members, any questions? I just have one. It's nice to meet you, and congratulations on some movement. I've been watching and following along since the beginning, and it's nice to see. So I'm curious. So I just want to make sure I understand. So there are already lots. You had listed a few addresses in your application. You already own these lots. And this is the position is for a construction project manager. And the goal is to rapid fire design, build, and have them completed by June. And you think you can do 4 houses and you're ready to go?
Correct. We have 2 vacant lots already in our ownership that we acquired last year. And then we are hoping to acquire 2 city-owned lots, one in Montford and one in West Asheville. And that should come to City Council, I believe, in May. So we should hopefully, with the approval from City Council, have those 2 lots in our possession by mid of this year.
That's exciting. I don't have any other questions. Hearing none from the other committee. Vice Mayor, did you have one? Okay. All right. Thank you so much for the information today. And I believe that is, we will move on to the next one and we'll be discussing at the end. Thank you, Anna.
All right. Thank you, Sage. Next up is Carolina Small Business Development Fund, the Western Women's Business Center Opportunity Asheville Collaborative.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Surilma Anuel. I am the new Executive Director for the Western Women's Business Center, an SBA program hosted by Carolina Small Business Development Fund. We have worked in partnership with Eagle Market Street and Mountain Biz Works under the Opportunity Asheville program for the past few years. At the WWBC, we offer one-on-one coaching, group training, access to capital to small businesses across Western North Carolina. These grants allow us to provide longer-term and more in-depth services to low and moderate income entrepreneurs in Asheville. This grant also help us support business development for people of color. This year, 56% of our clients that are supported under this grant are people of color. We continue offering our African American Business Association under Opportunity Asheville each month and have had 144 attendees at 9 sections since July 2020. Additionally, in collaboration with Mountain Biz Works, we offer bilingual services to Latino Hispanic entrepreneurs in Asheville. Of note, we have moved our Spanish events to Facebook Live. We did this to alleviate the business challenges of delivering our services in the age of COVID, especially in the Latino community where the language barrier and technical challenges are present. Thanks to Opportunity Asheville, this program can offer and clients have benefit from business training, coaching, grant, loans, and affordable rental space. I want to add that we are very proud to have exceeded our goals for this year, helping over 275 micro enterprise and help create and retain 15 jobs in Asheville. With a new round of Cdbg funding, we will continue running all of these programs, but also plan to implement a Latino business leadership group to support Latino businesses development and networking in Asheville. Thank you so much for your time. We're really looking forward to continue doing this work, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Committee members, any questions for the applicant? Okay, wonderful.
I'm just curious because I believe that in years past, you all were under the same application as Opportunity Asheville. Is that correct?
We did. So
yeah. So why did you break off this year?
No, we did not. So
okay.
Each organization submitted an individual application, but we also submitted a joint application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I believe we're going to move on to the next applicant now.
Yep. And so thank you, Sage. I feel a bit like a game host here. Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation is next with Innovate to Incubate.
Hi, I think I can't. Yeah, you might be muted.
You couldn't hear me. That's perfect. I'm glad I asked. So my name is Kasia Ma'atafali. I am the program director with Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation. And today I'm here to tell you guys a little bit more about the Incubate to Innovate program. So the Incubate to Innovate program is an economic development activity for predominantly Black and Brown businesses in Asheville, North Carolina. We support sole proprietors, owner-operated micro enterprises, and, entrepreneurs who are just by themselves or have one employee. So we support home-based businesses who reside in Asheville. We offer below market rates for lease spaces in the Central Business District downtown in Asheville. So we're on Eagle Market Streets. We also offer business advisory services like scheduling and planning, succession planning, and financial planning. And then my hope and my goal is with this funding to better do my job is to provide business acumen services where we're supporting our community and developing those essential skills and those business acumen skills to better further themselves in their career paths. We also provide asset building and wealth creation for our participants, and we hope to expand that to community as well. So our goal is to create and retain a minimum of 25 jobs. So we currently have 6 individuals in our Incubate to Innovate program, and we have space for 6 more. My job, and the reason why these funds are so important, is to be able to recruit, enroll, administer these services, do the marketing and outreach, monitor everybody, put together this participant incentive program, and then support with the outreach and the marketing for Opportunity Asheville. So we're partnering with 10Biz LLC, who created our signature curriculum. We're partnering with Grind AVL and Upstaff Personnel for recruitment, training, and job creation and placement. And then our target audience is individuals or families with barriers to employment, like older adult workers, returning citizens, veterans, and folks with differing abilities. So YMI is also up the street with Philip Cooper, and that's somebody I want to work really closely with to be able to support some of those initiatives as well. This target audience historically and chronically lacks access to resources. So we really want to act as that bridge to help people get into the Central Business District and then to help them scale their businesses. Some more of our partners who y'all frame as competition, but we're all doing this work together, is Mountain BizWorks, Carolina Small Business Development Fund, Women's Business Center. And again, we're helping each other with the Opportunity Asheville initiative. We are a fee-for-service program where tenants provide for a minimum of 3% increases over the 36-month lease term. So what that means is that we will be increasing leases as they make more money. And again, I can't do my job very well without this grant funding. And I really want to provide these services and get this acumen training off the ground so that we have the emotional, mental, physical skills to be able to survive in the crazy world that is today. So thank y'all so much for listening, and I'm open for any questions at this time.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
All right, Paul, and who's next?
Next, we've got Getting Back to Basics with our after-school virtual learning and after-school program.
Good morning. We at Project Lighten Up appreciate the opportunity to briefly share our program. I'm Pastor Hardaway. Also on the Zoom is Alma Atkins, one of the board members. If I have to leave before 12, we're still doing a virtual learning academy. So if I have to leave before 12, I just sign up. Our mission is to provide affordable year-round quality educational opportunities, enrichment and academic support in coordination with the city and county school systems. We work with the Buncombe County School System, the Asheville City School System to provide a virtual learning academy for students whose parents have signed up for virtual, or for parents who have to work, or for parents who don't have the patience to work with their one child that we can work with 10. We monitor, we assist in the learning process of students ranging from kindergarten to 8th grade. It's Monday through Fridays. Our after school program runs from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Our virtual learning would run from 8 to 2, and it would transition to the after school program. We implement tutorial, mentoring, enrichment learning experiences, which include the STEAM programs, STEAM projects. We provide low-income families. We want to encourage growth and development in all areas through remedial enrichment opportunities. We want young people really to discover their own personal niche, wherever that may be. We want them to grow in their self-worth, self-esteem, confidence. Again, we mentor. During the pandemic, it has been challenging keeping up with all the CDC guidelines. These are some of our partners. The Arboretum. Last year, our kids did the Echo Explore program where they actually identified plants and leaves and posted on the website. UNCA did biology. Last year, they were growing bacteria, which was a segue to the virus, but we had to shut it down. AB Tech does robotics, BIPA, Mars Hill University, Shiloh Community Garden Initiative. Some of our goals are our vision. Our vision is that young people will leave Project Lighten Up, the Virtual Learning Academy, our After School Action Program for Excellence, with a set of spiritual and moral values, honesty, integrity, good judgment, a complement of basic skills, linguistics, mathematical, scientific, artistic, physical, and social, an inquiring and discriminating mind that desires to know, to learn, and to know. Strong self-esteem, high personal expectations, tolerance and respect for others. That's our vision. Our goal is to create a fun environment in which young people can grow academically and socially. We make every effort to create opportunities that nurture this growth through, again, enrichment programs, academic support. As you know, research has found to suggest that offering both after-school tutorial and mentoring is a powerful intervention to break the cycle of disadvantage. And so we include all that. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Great description.
I'm trying to do it in 3 minutes.
You did great. 3 minutes is not easy, especially for all those wonderful things.
The alarm just went off, Pastor Hardaway, so you did great.
Okay.
You did great.
You need to have
any questions from
a
the
sign
committee
up there.
members?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. No questions from us, which means you
Thank
did an
you.
even better job. Thank you, Pastor Hardaway.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Next up.
Okay, next up, we have Green Opportunities with their Green Opportunities Core.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you can hear me.
We can.
Awesome. I'm Ben Williamson. I'm the new interim director at GO, and we're so appreciative of the chance to request support for our new GO Core program. GO Core is a full-time paid green jobs training and service experience. Core members are targeted to be young adults, ages 16 to 24, Asheville Housing Authority residents, also low-income members of marginalized populations, those with obstacles to employment, including those without a high school diploma or injustice reentry. Our members serve 4 days a week in the field in service, 1 day a week in classroom training. And our program has 3 pillars. First pillar is service. Service initiatives respond to needs in public housing communities, such as cultivating and distributing fresh produce, building sustainable green infrastructure, reaching residents with sustainability programs. This includes service with environmental partner organizations, schools, and other nonprofits. So funds invested to support these members in turn also support valuable projects and initiatives of various community entities. Second pillar is training. Classroom training includes eco-literacy and applied environmental education. Our members train for and take the Green Building Professional Certification, also OSHA, Clean Water Certification, CPR First Aid, trainings and experiences in urban agriculture, culinary skills and nutrition, trades work with electrical, plumbing, carpentry, also recycling, solar installation, stormwater management. Other areas prepare members for technical skills for a range of sustainable career pathways. Workshops also build job interview, networking, resume writing skills, and conversations are had around economic and social systems and history. We hope that our members are able to enter the system to disrupt the system, to increase environmental health and economic opportunity for others. Lastly, support. Our members are engaged in a personal development journey through their term of service. They're provided with wraparound services, social emotional support by our case management team and partners. They're able to develop emotional processing, communication skills, advocacy skills, wellness recovery, etc. Our goal is for members to bolster their resilience through overcoming challenges, and we help to provide them with necessary referrals during their term. We're also standing prepared to support our members a year post-graduation. Our performance measure is full-time living wage job placement or 2 or 4 year collegiate enrollment. We measure long-term program effectiveness with check-ins at 3, 6, and 12 months. This program is a nod to the programs that Go had when we started 12 years ago. We're excited to go back to our roots, and we've modeled this program after peer programs in Brooklyn, Baltimore, Denver, and Peoria. GoCore seeks to provide a transformational job training, leadership, community building, and service experience. Again, we're so grateful for this time. Thank you for the consideration. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions from the committee? Just a quick comment. I've long appreciated the mission and goals of Go, and I know that you are new, Ben, so welcome to your new position. And I guess I'm wondering how things are going with the organization. You have a new leadership. You were without leadership for a while. Are you funded? Is this, what I'm getting at, is this money like crucial to helping y'all lift off again? Do you have additional funding? What's happening with Go right now?
Yeah, no, we're excited. We're finally in a position now to get out and start telling people what's going on. So thank you for the question. Definitely the last year was a struggle for our organization, and we were without leadership, and our board and staff worked very hard, and thankfully guided us out of a difficult financial spot. We completed our 3-year youth build program in the fall. Our Kitchen Ready program is spun off into its own nonprofit entity, which we're all very excited about, and they're doing great work. We finished our last short-term training in December, and I was brought on in mid-January, 2 months ago, in an interim role, which I'm honored and thrilled to be a part of the organization at this time. So long story short, it was a great opportunity for us to launch a new strategic plan and really take stock of where we wanted to go, what we've done well, and what missteps we've had, lessons we want to learn moving forward. So we've had more conversations than we can count with stakeholders and community leaders and graduates and board members and former staff, et cetera. So we're excited about the 2 programs that we designed. GoCore is one of them. The second is the Highway Trades Academy that we've been selected through NCDOT as a host site. We're in the process of finalizing that. Our goal is to stay small and provide highly relational, as again, transformation training, and really move the needle one interaction and one client at a time. These funds, GoCore is really our primary funding source is AmeriCorps. And so we're looking for a 3-year AmeriCorps grant, and we've got 2 avenues for that. We expect to hear back from the first one in a week or 2. But part of that is to provide matching funds. AmeriCorps they don't fund 100% of it. So this grant and others that we've solicited here locally for GoCorps are toward that end. So it's not critical. We expect to be funded elsewhere, but it is a new program. And Go is coming out of a position. So we're optimistic. We feel like we have a lot of positive momentum. The community really rallied behind us, and we're hearing a lot of good things. So we have a lot of hard work ahead, but we're okay with hard work, and we're excited to get started.
Thank you, Ben.
Sure.
That's great to hear.
I have no questions. I just wanted to comment on Go's rebirth. I'm excited about it. It's good to see Go continue to go. And very excited about the highway trades training program. Is it official that you all will be a training site?
We have been selected as the host site. The only thing that has to happen now is just sign the dotted line with budget negotiations, which those are ongoing conversations where we've gotten really positive feedback about the numbers. Now it's just different signatures from 3 different offices in Raleigh, which is, I'm learning, incredibly test patience. And so we're just planning and waiting for those final boxes to be checked, but all indications are that we'll be off and running with that program. Thank you for the kind words and the support.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats on that. That's huge. Any other questions for this applicant? All right. Thank you, Ben. We appreciate you. Who's next, Paul?
All right, thanks, Sage. Next up is Helpmate, housing case management for domestic violence survivors. And reminder that this is one that did receive home awards yesterday, and how the home funds go kind of hand in hand.
Good morning, everybody. I'm April Burgess Johnson. I have the privilege of serving as the executive director for Helpmate. I think most of you are aware of our programming, but just in case, we provide safety, shelter, and support to domestic violence survivors. And we've been here in Buncombe County doing that important work for more than 40 years. In addition to our emergency shelter, which we'll have the opportunity to talk about in the later session today, we provide a host of supportive services, including housing-specific case management. Through that case management program, we're able to work with folks not only to find safe and affordable housing as they rebuild their lives after abuse, but we really take a whole family stability focus. And so we try to focus on the economic stability long-term, so that as folks graduate out of rental assistance funding, that they're able to sustain themselves and their families in a more ongoing way. We try to make sure that people have access to reliable transportation. We work on childcare issues. We help people navigate the legal process, because many folks are in court multiple times dealing with the civil and criminal ramifications of the violence that was perpetrated against them. And we offer both individual and group counseling for free to the folks that we serve. Our organization serves about 3,300 survivors annually through all of our programs, making us the largest domestic violence service provider in Western North Carolina. And we serve the greatest number of survivors per capita among any of North Carolina's largest counties, which is 29% more than the statewide average. Even though this is our first application for Cdbg funding for anything other than our emergency shelter, we are completing our 4th year of administering rental assistance funding through 4 other federal grant programs. Those programs combined represent nearly a quarter of Helpmate's budget, which is a real evidence of our commitment to housing work. We know that that domestic violence is a leading cause of homelessness among women and children. It's a significant contributor to childhood poverty and hunger. And that lack of available shelter and housing for domestic violence survivors contributes to a high rate of domestic violence related homicides. So just, directly speaking, this is a life and death kind of service that we offer to folks. We know that this is really important because our county ranks within the top 3 counties for domestic violence related homicides over a 10-year span. So even though we've acquired some land to begin the process of expanding our emergency shelter, it's undersized to meet the community needs. Every year we send twice as many families out of county for shelter as we're able to shelter in our building. That's why this housing work is so important, that we're able to quickly rehouse and support families who don't need that immediate protection that a domestic violence shelter offers. Maybe the perpetrator is incarcerated, or there's some other safety mechanisms for survivors. We know that the homeless survivors that we serve are among the most vulnerable families in our community. 92% are at extreme homicide risk, 98% are very low income, 40% of people are people of color, and 12% are physically disabled on a long-term basis, and more than that come to us injured and needing additional support. We have a 100% retention rate over a year for folks that we house, so we know that our wraparound services are working. These funds will help us to hire and train a staff member to administer home funding. We intend to reapply for home funding during the next allocation process if we're allowed to do that. Since this is a new position and we provide a specialized service, it will take us some time to hire and train a new staff member before we begin to conduct intakes under the program. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information. I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you. Well timed.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee for April? I will relay, so yesterday the Regional Housing Consortium met and we did recommendations similar to this process for the home fund. So if I recall correctly, Helpmate applied for $309,000 in tenant-based rental assistance, and the committee recommended, which will come to council in April, $50,000. And so I'm curious if you could, April, speak to, well, two things. You have two applications, one for a public service here and one for a housing. I'm not sure if we're talking about both right now, if we could do, yeah, okay. So I'm wondering, how does yesterday's potential funding award impact this ask?
So it'll reduce the number of families that we're able to serve, and it'll, and to be able to keep that at we want to be able to help as many families as we can, right? So we don't want to cut our number of people served down to 4. So what we're going to do is offer a shorter duration of rental assistance so that we can touch more families. So that's kind of how these two things net together. We do intend, if we're allowed to do so, to come back and ask for some additional allocation from home at its next cycle, which hopefully could go on top of that existing award and allow us to provide these wraparound services to folks. The other thing that I'll kind of mention about how funding nets together is that about 40% of Helpmate's funds are locally raised, and about 60% come through governmental grant programs, the largest of which is the Victims of Crime Act. The Victims of Crime Act allocation nationally and in North Carolina has been cut by nearly 70%. That is Helpmate's, by a long and wide margin, largest funding source. And so we're walking into a situation where we're going to have much less funding in our operations budget to provide direct services at a time when we're winding down a pandemic that has kept survivors trapped in their homes with batterers. And now the pandemic conditions are going down. Survivors are being more mobile, and we're seeing an influx of people coming to us for help. And so while it's always important that we come to the city and ask for this important infrastructure investment into our organization, next year it's more important really than it's been ever during my tenure at Helpmate. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about how those things net together.
I need just a little more understanding. So home funds support your Helpmate through financial assistance, direct payment. Is that correct? And then what you're requesting today under public service is more of the case management piece.
Yes, Vice Mayor, that's exactly right. The home funds provide the rental assistance funds, and then the Cdbg funds which is what we're discussing, right now, would allow us to administer those home funds and provide the services that go along with them so that we can help people not just get housing, but also keep housing and be able to afford it in the long term.
So how much did you request from home funds and how much were you awarded? I need that understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. We requested $309,000, which would have allowed us to provide assistance, security deposit assistance, utilities, and move-in support to 25 families for an average duration of 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there were a lot of asks and a limited amount of funding. So we walked away from that process with $50,000, which we will use to provide basically that get over the first hurdle amount of funding for folks. So the deposits and a very short duration of rental assistance so that we can meet more needs for more families.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Councilwoman Turner, if you'd like, we can give a little brief synopsis of that connection between the Community Development Block Grant and home funds. Like as an example, the Cdbg housing services require home tenant-based rental assistance, but home tenant-based rental assistance does not require Cdbg. Megan, could you talk quickly about the link there for HCD Council?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So I think this is one of the reasons why when we do our allocations, it makes sense to do the home allocations first, because what we are awarding in Cdbg funds or potentially awarding are contingent upon those home awards. So we aim to have some sort of balance between, the funds provided for the case management so that they can have the supportive services that then support the home funds. So home funding itself doesn't allow for the payment of those supportive services or that case management. So by linking the two types of funding, it's able to provide a more complete type of program.
Thanks, Megan. And we'll point out the next two when the applicants come up, the link with home fund, if that's good for HCD.
That's great. I have that in my notes to do as well. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, April, and thank you, Megan. April, I appreciate the understanding of what's happening next year. And as a side note, if there is something we can do as local legislators to help encourage the state to make better decisions, please let me know. You can reach out to me directly. Thank you. Any other questions for this applicant? Okay. Thank you, April. And I guess we'll see you in a few minutes for the next one. All right.
All right. Thank you, Sage. Next up is Mountain BizWorks with their Opportunity Asheville. I believe Matt Raker is on the call, but again, Mountain BizWorks with Opportunity Asheville.
Good morning, council members and staff. It's great to be with you this morning. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Again, I'm Matt Raker, the Executive Director of Mountain BizWorks, and our request, as Paul shared, is part of the Opportunity Asheville Collaborative, which has a goal of providing a truly integrated approach to microenterprise development and job creation for low-income individuals within Asheville, and particularly for entrepreneurs of color. Collaboration might sound as easy as pie, but as you know, delicious pies don't just put themselves together. It really requires hard work, adaptation, and a sustained investment. So as a group with Eagle Market Streets and Western Women's Business Center over the last 3 or so years, we've really worked on that and are starting to see real clear and repeatable dividends from these efforts. So in the last 3 years, we've, as a group, have served 1,308 low-income individuals, led to 186 business starts or expansions in our community, and has created or retained 237 jobs for low-income individuals in our community. And 30% of these have been filled by persons of color within our community. So really pleased with how we've gotten more efficient and I think have really collaborated to reduce redundancies and gaps in our service delivery in this area. In the past year, especially, this has been so important. With the pandemic, it really I think allowed us to have a level of resilience for our local micro enterprises to rapidly be able to reach out to folks, collaborate. We had programs where we might have been the funder, and so we needed someone to be our TA partner, to assist on those. And so we worked with Western Women's on that and Eagle Markets on that. So really has been so important over the last year. And we know will continue to be important in the coming years. We continue to work our way out of this pandemic and the impacts on our local business community. But alongside that, which I know has been, all the headlines, we've been continuing to operate our core Cdbg supported activities of helping aspiring low-income entrepreneurs gain the skills and resources needed to start or grow their enterprise. So this includes our micro-lending services, our foundation's business planning course, our one-on-one really targeted individualized business coaching, which is so important, and our newly launched, that we launched last fall, Catalyst program. We know economic disasters tend to create a wave of entrepreneurial activity, and we're definitely witnessing this right now. Nationally, we know in 2020, new business starts were 40% higher than they were in 2019. And our rate of new client increases is double normal levels. So there's tremendous entrepreneurial energy, which is encouraging because I think that's going to help move us out of here. But it's also just it's also daunting with the amount of need there is. An example is the new Catalyst Fund program I mentioned, which provides seed stage funding and training specifically for entrepreneurs of color. And it's built in part on the city's Mountain Community Capital Fund, loan guarantee facility. So we launched that in the fall. So went from 0 to now having 50 active clients with active funding requests totaling over 1.6 million in that. We're really thrilled with that. 8 have already gone through and been totally funded at the tune of about $400,000. And 3 of these represent new or expanded entrepreneurs of color in the Asheville downtown district, which we're excited about and have a lot more good things in the works there. So again, this is encouraging, we see there's there's a real bright pathway to a more inclusive local economy from this. Which wanted to share how grateful we are for Cdbg support. These direct services do require public subsidy to be able to operate, and along with the additional matching funds, they help us to access. They wouldn't exist at the levels that they do. So, very grateful for the city's partnership in this, and we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions for the applicant? I saw those same outstanding numbers you shared with us in the application and just was a little wowed. So congratulations on so much success to date.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you. And we'll keep moving to the next applicant. Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you. Next up is On Track with their Housing and Financial Capabilities Program.
Good morning. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Celeste Collins. I'm the Director of On Track Financial Education and Counseling. As we all know, the pandemic has wreaked havoc in our community with low-income households being especially hard hit. Our Cdbg grant application will help fund On Track's programs and services that are helping people deal with the financial and housing impacts of COVID right now and help people get back on track towards housing and money goals as the economy moves towards recovery. The challenges of 2020 forced us to go from 95% in-person service delivery to 100% remote, like lots of other agencies. We developed and launched online screening and scheduling with support by phone as needed. Clients can now complete and submit all of their information online. And our counselors meet virtually or by phone for the counseling appointments with clients. For education, we developed pandemic-specific live and in-person webinars to help people deal with income not covering expenses, figure out what to do with debt, and how to use credit strategically during a crisis. But that's not all. Coming soon, we have online, on-demand education that will be taught by us and other local folks. It'll be available 24/7, and it will give flexibility to people who have work and life challenges that don't allow them to participate when live education is offered. Our goal through this grant application is to serve 526 people in the city of Asheville through our financial capabilities approach. That means we combined education with individual counseling. So it's learning plus individual action plans that clients create with their counselor. And our staff is available as clients are taking steps on their action plan to give supportive accountability when the inevitable bumps in the road happen. In our credit portion of our service delivery, our staff's extensive knowledge and training helps dispel some of the myths of credit and credit scores. We work with Self-Help Credit Union using specific products to help people build their credit scores and increase their opportunities for affordable home ownership. In budgeting, counseling, and education, we give financial concepts of budgeting, set-aside accounts, priority payments, and strategic goal setting. But we don't just give information. We help people create tools for effectively organizing their money. In our home buyer services, we provide education and counseling support with action plans, and we are ready to for the launch of the city's down payment assistance program to help people get ready and qualified for mortgages that they will use to purchase homes and begin building generational wealth. Our programs support clients of other agencies. So we're part of the fabric that is so special about the Asheville area. Habitat and MHO refer people for credit improvement. Mountain Housing refers people for our homebuyer program. We provide our financial skill building to Helpmate's iRise program participants. And then many agencies refer clients for our match savings program, which provides a $3 to every dollar saved match for building emergency savings. Yes, On Track is a frequent flyer for Cdbg funding, and we sincerely appreciate the support. And our services are part of that fabric that makes Asheville, that supports Asheville's programs for low-income people to establish affordable housing. In the Consolidated plan, On Track is specifically mentioned several times as an example of services that HUD is looking for to show that communities provide comprehensive support for people in their quest for affordable housing. Thank you for the opportunity to present today and for the years of funding, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Celeste. Any questions from the committee?
No questions, just thanks. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that too. I'm glad to see you.
It's nice to see you. It's nice to see all of y'all.
Clearly, we appreciate greatly the work that On Track does. And, more and more, Celeste, I see a council that is really focused on affordable home ownership and home ownership in general. We have several items like the land banking and the land trust and the down payment assistance that really rely on some of this preparation for us to help the folks we're trying to help. So I see y'all as a key piece in the fabric of Asheville, and I appreciate the way you described that. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Paul, who's next?
So just quickly, it is just past 10:15, which is when we talked about having a break. We could do that if you'd like, or we have 5 more to get through until our break was listed on the presentation. Just wanted to offer that to both of you to either take a break or push through for 5 more.
What do y'all think? These are going about 5 to 7 minutes each.
I can push. I can push.
I can too. I can push. Yeah, let's push.
Okay.
We'll take a break after this 5.
Excellent. Hearing that, next up is Partners Unlimited with Academic Enhancement Program. And Partners Unlimited, we see you, but if you wanted to unmute, that would be great.
Okay, I'm unmuting. Now I'm trying to show you my picture this morning. You can see me?
We can see you. If you will tip your screen down just a little, we can see the ceiling a little too. There you go. Oh, that's
exactly.
great.
All right.
Perfect.
We are here. And I notice your priorities start with housing and then they come down to youth services. Our point here is if we could work on the youth services with education, they can buy a house. So that's where we're going to start out. Our program is based on at-risk youth for various reasons. It may be the family, it may be personal reasons, it may be because they have no interest in education, it may be because that their social behavior is different, and maybe they haven't had the influence that they need in that family structure to let them know how important education is for the outcome of their life, from one step to the next step to the next step. So this is how we started out with our mission statement, which is to help economically disadvantaged youth build a strong foundation for success in life by providing them with educational resources, positive mentors, life skills, that personal feeling that they need to function. When you know someone loves you, care about you, and realize that your outcome will be different with this love, that's what we work on. Our goal is to provide a safe, wholesome, professional environment to serve the targeted population, which is our at-risk youth. We will create and develop resources for improving and enhancing their social and academic skills, abilities, and successes. There is a direct relationship or correlation between the lack of a high school education and our youth going into the juvenile system. Youth between the ages of 16 and 24 without a high school education, the probability of them being involved in the juvenile system is beyond imaginable. It's almost 64% that they may be locked up before they are 34 years old. That's staggering when you think about it. Our program has a structured day, which includes academic, we include physical activities, we include career references, which would get them ready for something. We collaborate with AB Tech, they have the skill program. And we also have the GED program in the same building where we're located. So if we have a student who has no interest in staying in school and they are 16 years old, which of course now they can drop out, we will connect them with the GED program upstairs and we will provide some type of tutoring and mentoring for that student. We have also have a professional development component in our structured day program. We have reliable mentors and volunteers. So with this structured day program, there is something for everybody, and we will individualize that. Our success rate has been 90% for those high school students who have come to recover credit. And we have found that if a student is behind in credits or their friends have moved on to the next grade, they generally don't have a desire to stay in school unless they can graduate with their peers. And that's where our strong online learning program comes in. We're using the same online program that is state approved and also the city school is using. We encourage at-risk students from Buncombe County and the city. Of course, the majority of our students are from the city, and we are located right here at Asheville High, and they can walk to our program. Students that have been suspended short-term or long-term, we keep them off the street because we have our program here. So they're referred by their home school to our program where they can get all of the structured information that we have. With the COVID-19 now, we're finding that students are not signing on to their classes, a high percentage. We have offered to the public school our facility so that we can help them. We will adjust our time frame for these particular students. If they need to come after 12 to us, we will find a tutor and we will have them in our setting. I know you all are familiar with the pods, so there are pods every place. But one thing that stands out with our program, we have certified retired volunteers who have been teachers, who have been administrators, and who have been program directors. That's our strength, other than the love that we put into our program. We've had over 125 students to graduate with their class. Now, this is not the number of students that have come through our program. We've had over 900 students to come through our program. But how we can track our success is we take the official graduation list and compare the names from that list with the students that have been enrolled in our program. And that's why we have that success rate. For the class of 2019, we had 10 students that had gone through our program that graduated. But I think the highest number of students that we had was the class of 2011, and we had 30 students that graduated with their class because of our program. The credit recovery part, the student can take 1, 2, 3, however many the school will approve. They could come through our program and get the credit recovery. Let's see, have I missed anything? I know I'm doing a lot of talking because I get so excited about this program. Okay, we have the substance abuse part too. We've added a peer specialist.
Support specialist.
Peer support specialist. They are certified, and the strength there is that they too have been on drugs or had some kind of issues in their lives. And they're younger than I am. You probably don't know I'm a senior citizen, but anyway. So they can kind of relate more so, because sometimes you haven't experienced that negative effect on your life. So therefore, you may not know how to pour into that student or that at-risk youth. So we have a peer support specialist, and that's been fantastic. Any questions? I guess I've been talking 3 minutes.
You did a great job. That was so informative. I appreciate it. I did not realize you were within Asheville High as well. Any questions from the committee?
No questions, just to thank you all for what you do. And I wish I had a hot dog right now, Mr. Anderson.
I know. That's the other part of it.
I couldn't see around that corner.
But he has to sell the hot dogs so we can keep the program where we want to keep the program. So we're just out there hustling.
So, Ms. Grace, I don't have any questions, but I know I better say hey to you.
Yes, how are you?
I'm well.
I think we can start out with good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's so glad to see this morning, isn't it?
And thank you. It is. And thank you for the work that you do. Thank you so much.
I echo that gratitude. Any other questions for the applicant? Paul, just a little procedure. I had noticed in the application that there were a couple documents missing, and I don't know if it sounds like your list was being updated as documents were received. Has anything else come in that wouldn't be reflected on this document right now?
I will.
There was a budget, I think, that was missing.
I will flip over to Megan for that. She was the lead entity on this one, and I know that the request was made. Megan?
We did not receive any additional documents outside of what was provided to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now let me make sure I understand. Does that mean something is missing, or does that mean you have everything that we need to give?
It sounds like there might be, and this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, like the preparation going into this is an enormous process. And it sounds like there's a checklist and a couple things may not have been submitted. Maybe what we could do is while we're going through the rest of these presentations, Megan, could you connect with them and see if they're clear on what's missing? And then we can do that in the background before we get to discussion. Would that be possible? Or Megan, you might be taking notes and all these other things right now, and I don't realize it.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to connect with them right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan. So she will get in touch with you during right now via email while we go through the next presentations.
Okay, because we are in the office, Megan. 281-2800.
All right, thank you so much. All right, thank you.
Just thank you so much. A bit of clarity on that process. After we review the applications, we send out the evaluation forms with follow-up questions, and then anticipate receiving information back from the agencies answering those questions and providing those documents. And then whatever is received by the time we can, with that due date, we put together for you all. So just as a clarity on process.
That's great. Thank you. Okay.
And next up, we've got Spark Foundation with Changing Together.
Just one second. Vice Mayor, did you have a question just then? Okay, great. All right, thank you. On to Spark. Hi, Jackie.
Good morning, everybody. Hard to follow that goodness. I'd like you to imagine this scenario. After 7 years in prison, you're released. Quote, you are paralyzed by the fear of falling back into old habits, being overwhelmed mentally and emotionally, transitioning back into society where community will forever remind you of your mistakes, end quote. Comes from one of our case managers here. You return to your home community and your parole officer tells you that you can't be in public housing because of your past violent crime conviction. But your closest connections are there, and while you don't want to jeopardize their housing, you have little choice. Your family is glad to have you back, but you know you have to start providing for yourself and for them. You plan to get a job, but you won't get hired without an ID. You're told you can't get an ID until you pay off your court fines, but you can't pay off your court fines until you get a job. Friends have been kind enough to feed you for the moment and borrow their cell phone. You're still learning how to use smartphones and are probably missing messages meant for you. You hear of job opportunities, but you don't have a car or a license to get there. You've never had a resume or filled out an online application, but you have a lot of skills. You work really hard and you're intent on making it. You just need someone to give you a chance. Old friends who you got in trouble with start coming around. You're tempted to use again. You're tempted to make quick cash. You are not the same person that went in 7 years ago, and you're trying not to make the same mistakes. But everyone you know has their own struggles, and who's going to support you? You find a flyer about local services, and you recognize the name on the flyer. He used to run in the same groups you did. He turned his life around, and now he helps people transition from prison to home. In your desperation, you give him a call. So that's a pretty common scenario for the people that come into our services, and I wanted to let you know what someone like this would receive from one of our case managers. Direct support provided by individuals with life experience in the criminal justice system, services that are focused on trust, relationships, and community support, peer counseling around courage, dealing with employment rejection, rebuilding relationships and hope, identification of your most urgent needs, such as food, housing, and employment, identification of your sustainability needs, such as education, transportation, and healthcare, and plans to address all of those. Access to living wage employers through inclusive hiring partners where criminal background will not be a barrier. Access to day one on-the-job needs, such as a uniform, work boots, bus passes. Constant and consistent follow-up and support. So for the last 2 years, and I looked at data just before the pandemic because you know that kind of messes things up, but we served 123 individuals in case management. 57% of those individuals were people of color, 43% were white, all are 30 to 60% of AMI. Top reasons for those referrals were employment, housing, and food security. Of the folks that we closed out, 68% showed positive improvement in their life skills. So currently, our case managers are serving 29 individuals with 16 referrals that we are following up on. We also have a women's empowerment group. We're currently serving 8 women in that group. Those services are one-on-one at the moment since we're not meeting as a group. Thank you very much for your support of Changing Together.
Thank you, Jackie. Any questions from the committee? I appreciated the way you walked through that situation and helped me understand.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Jackie. We're going to keep moving. We appreciate you being here. Paul, who's next?
All right. Next up is Youth Transform for Life with the YTL training program, summer after school and advocacy program.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Paris Finley, and I'm the co-director of YTL. My partner is Janelle Lassiter. She's also a co-director of YTL. So just thank you for having me. Can you hear me? Okay. So YTL has been working in the community for the past 7 years with a focus on creating equity for undeserved individuals in the community. We survey participants and families to evaluate both our program effectiveness and participant satisfaction. This past summer of 2020, YTL offered an 8-week program that allowed parents to work and to know that their children were receiving safe in a safe environment, and that we were following the COVID measures in place, receiving academic tutoring, and also participating in regular summer activities. Our project focuses on creating equity in education for student populations that have been traditionally underserved. YTL provides an 8 to 10 week summer programming that includes academic tutoring, science enrichment, and other opportunities for participants to be exposed to various activities, as well as participating in what would be considered normal summer activities. Our program serves students who struggle academically, socially, and emotionally, and those living in public housing and other low economic areas. We also serve families that have been impacted by systemic racism. In addition to our summer, we will work with students to advocate for themselves in the school setting and to take our mindfulness practice that we use at YTL to transfer those skills into class. And also some of our partners that we work with Appalachian Conservation. We have a AmeriCorps worker that comes in and she talks about the environment. She takes the children out on field trips and walks and just discuss things of nature. We also work with a resident artist, Jenny Pickens. She comes in and does art with our youth. We also have STEM programming that is ran by Krista and Mr. Bicker. They come in and do science and engineering. We also work with Anthony, who is with Black People Camp 2. So he comes in and just talk about camping and outdooring and those kinds of things. We also partner with Professor Mark at UNCA with media programming. He has UNCA students to come in and teach about media programming on the computers. We also partner with Horse Sense. We have groups of students to go out to Horse Sense and just work with the horses. We also partner with glass blowing. We also partner with Fired Up and Clayworks. We also have tutors to come in. We have a numerous amount of volunteers that come in as tutors, math tutors, reading tutors. We also work with Asheville Literacy. They come in and work with all of our children. And right now we're looking at partnering with therapists like me to help with some of the social and emotional needs that are happening right now. During COVID, we just saw a rise in just the behaviors of our children, and we just want to see them healthy and whole. So we really are working on the social and emotional component of YTL. So thank you for hearing me out, and I could take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Finley. Any questions for the applicant?
Good to see you. No questions.
Thank you.
Sounds like we know your program well. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. All right, Paul, who is next?
All right, next up, we have the Ywca of Asheville, Western North Carolina. They've got both empowerment, childcare, and mother love, and they are up next. And I do echo that sentiment that it's really good to see a lot of our partners this morning. It's very nice.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
My name is Dr. Maris Lavender. I am the Chief Program Officer at the Ywca of Asheville in Western North Carolina. It is my first time at this meeting. I'm excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity to share with y'all about one of our programs. the Empowerment Childcare, which is a low and no cost hourly childcare. We primarily serve, our body is 93% female bodied folks aged 35 to 45, all of whom are low income as measured by their ability to receive SNAP. 75% of those women had single parent households. And so for this demographic, affordable, reliable childcare is critical for their ability to access economic and educational resources. So we have partnerships with AB Tech for students who are taking classes at AB Tech. They can drop their child off at our childcare. We also have pay by the hour or low cost childcare for those who are going on job interviews or have job trainings and just need someone to watch their child for a moment. So this program is integral to the economic empowerment and ability to access other services in the community. As y'all may be aware, Asheville and Buncombe County has an immense childcare shortage. So ECC is one of the only types of childcare like this in Asheville, and we really seek to stand in and mitigate the gap of services for parents who may be awaiting vouchers, or they can't get into another childcare, or they don't have the funds to pay for a licensed childcare facility. We're more flexible on who we can accept, and it allows us to serve more people in our community who are in need. The Empowerment Childcare also has partnerships with the Family Justice Center. So we have a childcare facility at the Family Justice Center for women or survivors of interpersonal violence who are seeking services at the Family Justice Center can drop their child off there. Parents also receive case management and case assistance services. So we connect them to resources for unemployment assistance, any sort of income-based assistance, SNAP benefits, and guide them through the process of enacting or accessing resources that will allow the economic fulfillment of their ability to take care of their families in every avenue. Overall, as I mentioned, ECC is one of the only programs like this in the community and serves houseless families as well, with a particular network of services for parents who are experiencing homelessness and need someone to watch their kids, access service, and we provide meals for them. And while we are the only, I think what I would like to say in closing is that I believe this program really represents the importance of synergy of all of our programs and the ability for folks to know that ECC exists as they're accessing Helpmate, as they're on track, and that we can really create a fabric, as Celeste said, of services in our communities so that it's just an easy way for people to get what they need. Thank you all for your time, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lavender. And I guess we could have preempted this by saying there are 2 items from the YW on here, and perhaps we should hear from both while we have you. Would that work for the committee members? Okay. And do we have, go ahead.
I want to note that the person presenting for the next program is the actual program director. So if you, it's up to y'all, but if y'all like, we can still present and then we can do them together or we can do them separately.
Okay, I didn't realize it was going to be a different presenter. It is fine now that we've seen Kelly come up. I'm okay with it if other councilwomen are. Do we have any questions for Dr. Lavender specific to this child care ask? Okay, great. Dr. Kelly Hubble, welcome.
Hi, good morning. I'm Kelly Hubble. I am the Director of Women's Empowerment at the Ywca. It's my privilege to talk to you all about our Mother Love program. So the national high school graduation rate for teen parents is 36%. And our goal at Mother Love is to change that narrative and to help support pregnant and parenting teens graduate high school, enroll in secondary education, have healthy births, healthy families, and delay a subsequent pregnancy. So we have been around since 1985, the Mother Love program has, and we have a track record over the last 5 to 10 years of a 95% high school graduation rate. We do this by providing monthly home visits and case management, monthly group events such as Lunch Bunch at the area high schools, and providing an annual reproductive health program for all of our participants. We also provide access to a resource closet, so diapers, baby clothes, small furniture items, and making sure that our girls and our families, so our big focus is not only supporting our pregnant and parenting mothers, but also their partners and their families. So connecting them with community resources to make sure that they have access to the services that they need and the support that they need to graduate high school and to transition successfully into young adulthood while also being a parent. Our goal is to serve around 30 pregnant and parenting teens, that is pregnant and parenting mothers, over the course of a year, and to also support their partners through group events at the YW as well, and inviting them to come to our lunch bunch services as well. I am also happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions from the committee? All right. Thank you, Dr. Lavender and Kelly, and we appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Paul, I hope I didn't mess your order up too much, but who's next?
No, that was perfect. And again, I'll go back to this is where there's a break in the schedule, or would the committee wish to move forward? We have approximately 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 8 more to go. We can push through and take a break after that. It's completely up to you all.
I would like a 3 to 5 minute break if possible. Can we come back in 5 minutes? It's 10:45. Come back at 10:50. Is that okay? All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I see the councilwomen have returned. Welcome back. If staff are ready, come up back on camera. We'll give our partner agencies just a minute. Paul, are you back with us yet? Give him just one more minute. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
I'm backstage. Thank you for that.
Welcome back, everyone. I believe we're ready to go. Thank you for that quick break. And who is queued up next, Paul?
We have Caring for Children with Trinity Shelter.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Amy Hobson, and I am the Executive Director for Caring for Children. And I'm going to be talking with you all today about Trinity Place Emergency Runaway and Homeless Shelter. On the application, I think I just put Trinity Place because emergency runaway homeless youth shelter tends to be a lot. So Trinity Place has been in Asheville for 30 years now. This is the third year that we have come to you all requesting some funding. And while we understand that this is not ongoing funding for each program, and you all talked about that really well at the beginning of this meeting, I did want to speak about the reason that we are coming back for a third time. The federal cap for youth services runaway shelters has not changed in 9 years. So even though in 9 years we are seeing more and more children that are homeless and on the street, and obviously cost of expenses has increased, the federal funding has not. So it has really been flatlined. So that's why we find ourselves the third time coming and asking for some funding to support our shelter. Trinity Place, in case you all don't know, we're the only emergency shelter for children in Asheville, in Buncombe County, in all of Western North Carolina. We serve kiddos ages 7 through 17. And these are children that are homeless, have run away, are at home and have been kicked out of home, are experiencing some challenges at home. We get referrals from law enforcement, from parents, from schools, from the juvenile court system, from therapists, mental health providers, from a lot of the agencies that have been on this call presenting that deal with children. A lot of the kiddos during COVID we have found have been couch surfing. They've kind of fallen under the radar because school has not been in person. So what we have seen at Trinity Place is our numbers have increased vastly. Normally we serve between 50 to 100 children every year, and they stay anywhere from 1 day to 3 weeks. We are already at serving 85 children this year, and our average stay is now 23 days. So children normally might have some services put in place if they're at school or if they're in a different program in the community. But because those have not been happening during COVID, they've really fallen under the radar and they end up with us. So we are a low barrier shelter. Kid knocks on our door anytime, day or night. Parent calls us, social worker calls us, family friend calls us, worried about a child. we immediately take them in. There's no waiting period. We don't turn them away. As I say, we really are barrier free. We're available 24 hours a day, in person or for phone consultations. So child that is thinking, having some challenges, doesn't really know what to do, can call us anytime. We're able to immediately speak with them live in person during their crisis. Same thing for parents. Parents are feeling really frustrated, recognizing that things are not going well at home with their kiddos. As we all can remember, being a teenager is challenging. Having a teenager is challenging. But those parents can call us immediately. We are not DSS. We are not law enforcement. We are somebody that can hook them up with community services. And so over the last 8 months, we have received 2,674 phone calls, which is up 75% from this time last year. Parents just calling us during this pandemic, not knowing what to do, and just looking for some support. And kids calling us, talking about how while they're stuck at home and they're not with their friends in school, mental health challenges are increasing. And instead of calling a national 800 suicide line, they're reaching out to somebody in Asheville, somebody that their friends has stayed with, and someone they feel connected to. While children are with us at Trinity Place, we provide obviously emergency housing, all of their meals, one-on-one tutoring, counseling, transportation to medical appointments, volunteer opportunities with social justice agencies, and really hardcore connections to the community. Not just giving a phone number, but that warm handoff. So a kiddo looking for some opportunity, a parent looking for an opportunity. It's not just during the crisis, but that child is with us, but after we follow that child and family for an entire year. So what that means is we're texting, we're calling, just to see if they need any additional support in the community for that warm handoff. With the 85 children that we've served so far this year, we have provided over 2,000 nights of shelter. Places kids would have ended up couch surfing, in juvenile detention, or on the streets, we would have successfully prevented. We work with all of the youth programs in our community, and often there's a short wait list to get into those youth programs, so that child can stay with us and continue to be successful and supervised and supported until they're able to go into more of a long-term program. We also saw an increase, I try to hear the ding, with LGBTQ youth during COVID. We have partnered with many youth organizations, such as Transmission and Youth Outright, to identify supporting LGBTQ youth, especially during COVID. So I did hear the ding, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Hobson. Any questions for the applicant? It's nice to see you again as well.
You too. Thank you all so much.
All right. Thank you. Paul, who's next?
Next up stage, we have Elida Holmes with Elida Homeless Services.
Hi, how are you all today? I'm here to talk to you guys about Cdbg funding requests to go hand in hand with our home request that we presented yesterday. So Elida Homes operates our Elida Students Training for Advancement program that serves 18 to 24-year-old unaccompanied transitioning age youth who are homeless or at imminent homelessness. Yesterday, we were pleased to talk with everyone and secure $20,000, just over that, for tenant-based rental assistance. We also think from the county and from the ESG grant for tenant-based rental assistance. With the Cdbg funding, we are looking to be able to pay for staffing in order to administer that funding. What the students that we work with through our program are many of them being Hispanic and the remaining amount being Caucasian. Within that demographic, 78% of them lack stable housing. 44% of them are literally homeless. 78% are early parenting. 71% are court involved. 88% have mental health diagnoses. and system. Working with face many barriers that are keeping them from being able to be successful in our community. We know that these youth have the risk of becoming part of our chronically homeless population. When we work with them today, we are able to provide the preventative services to keep them off of the streets and keep them and their children from becoming the chronically homeless that our community has to put other services into. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for the connection to the home funds yesterday. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, Paul, did you want to share anything about their home application or anything to note there?
No, just very similar with how they match up, like you said, Sage, I think is good.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Sarah. Nice to see you again. All right, and we will be moving on to the next one.
Next up is Haywood Street Congregation with Haywood Street Respite.
Good morning. Can you all hear me? Okay,
Good morning, Laura.
Hey, this is...
We can, yes.
Okay, thanks. So my name is Laura Kirby, and I work for Haywood Street Congregation, and really glad to be here and appreciate this opportunity. So we operate the Haywood Street Respite, which is the program we're requesting funding for. Respite offers a safe place for unhoused adults to stay after being discharged from the hospital. The easiest way to think about what we do is just to think about your own experience. If you've been in the hospital, or if you've had a family member or a friend who's been in the hospital, you know that when you get out, you're generally still not feeling up to par, and what you really need is to rest and give your body time to get well. And that's really at the core of what we do in Respite. We don't think of ourselves as a facility, but more like home, where our friends have a chance to rest and get well and receive the same kind of TLC you would offer to someone in your own family after they've been in the hospital. So how long a friend stays is based on a recommendation from a referring physician, but in general, folks stay 2 to 3 weeks. And during that time, not only are they resting and getting well, but they have a chance to connect with needed services and supports and make progress on their goals. Our top goals are connecting each person to community-based health care and making sure they're in the pipeline for permanent housing. Beyond that, folks work on all kinds of things like getting an ID or enrolling with SNAP or meeting with a caseworker or a disability advocate. The program is based on an evidence-based model that has demonstrated improved health and housing outcomes. So in terms of housing, we know that it's not possible generally in Asheville to obtain permanent housing in 2 to 3 weeks, but it is possible to make progress on a long-term housing plan and successfully developed a short-term housing plan. Of more than 1,000 people who have stayed with us over the past 7 years, just over 75% have gone somewhere other than camping when they leave, and this might be going to stay with friends and family or moving into a transitional housing setting or enrolling in a residential substance abuse treatment program. Let's see, our targets for this period are that we will serve 185 people. We hope that a number of those will go to permanent housing. I think we proposed 15 of those, and that we also propose 75 of our friends will have a successful exit to more stable housing. Respite is the only provider of medical respite care in Buncombe County. And just to clarify what differentiates us from a traditional shelter, that would be the level of support, the focus of care, and the type of service provided. Respite guests are able to stay on site during the day and are offered healthcare advocacy, transportation to follow-up appointments, and connection to support services. Another strength of ours is the unique culture of Haywood Street, whose focus is on supportive community and relationships. And our hope is always that friends who come and stay with us become part of our family and stay connected to those supportive relationships, even when they leave Respite. I think I'll stop there and see if you all have any particular questions for me.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions from the committee members? I do have one. First, I'd like to say I really applaud the courageous work that you all are doing. Before the pandemic, I was able to tour the Respite Center and learn more about how really it's the only option in the community. If you were unhoused and sought medical care, this resource is the only thing for people after they exit the hospital, which I found both amazing and alarming. I'm curious, so when in reviewing your application, it looks like y'all were awarded some funds last year that have not been spent. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, my understanding just last week is when the funds actually came to the city, and we just got our first draw request form. So we are just now having the chance to request funds from this year's cycle. Is that accurate, Paul? I guess I'm looking at you.
Yeah. Hey, Laura. And so as a point of clarity, there's folks who received funding in 2021. We just got that HUD contract last week. But there are folks with funding before that from years past that might still be out there. But regarding anyone who got 2021 funding, we wouldn't have expected them, although kudos to them if they could, to spend them within that quick week there. But we did just get our funding finally from HUD. We're going to contract right now, send out the draw request with some guidance, and then we'll be following up with everybody for those funds.
A very important line to draw. I did not realize that. Thank you for that connection, both of you. Thank you, Laura. Any other questions for the applicant? Great. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks so much.
All right. And next up is Helpmate with the emergency shelter. I think we already did that one. Is that correct? I'm sorry. No, for emergency shelter for domestic violence. Not the housing services. That's April.
It's okay. It's a lot to manage. Thank you so much, Paul. And I appreciate the chance to spend 3 more minutes with you all this morning. So I referenced our Helpmate's emergency shelter program for domestic violence survivors as we were talking about housing case management, because those services are knitted together in a lot of ways. So our emergency shelter was the first program that Helpmate opened 42 years ago. It is the tip of the spear for us. We are serving the folks who are most likely to die if we don't. And that's, a byproduct of needing to grow our shelter space. And it means that we have to be selective in who we bring in. So we're choosing to bring in folks that have the highest lethality risk. 92% of the people in our shelter have that very high lethality risk, as well as the folks who are lowest resourced in our community. Half of the folks who come into our shelter have existing substance abuse or significant mental health needs. As I mentioned earlier, 12% are disabled and many more than that are injured. About 40% are people of color. And we do have full-time bilingual staff that are available to folks in our shelter. It's been an interesting year with COVID impact. We actually had to provide our shelter out of a local hotel, which was an interesting thing, to provide a secret secured domestic violence shelter in an open public place, but somehow we jumped that hurdle and made that happen. Given that the infection rates are going down, we've done some upgrades to our existing shelter to produce more capacity for social distancing. We are in the position now of within the next 3 weeks being able to return to our main shelter building. We have secured land to expand our emergency shelter, and so I look forward to continuing that conversation with council members as time goes forward. This funding would specifically pay for our shelter coordinator. We have Mrs. Joy Henderson. She has been with Helpmate for 26 years. The average lifespan of a domestic violence advocate in North Carolina is 18 months. And so to have that level of stability and security and the community knowledge and expertise and just sheer compassion that Joy brings to us is just an amazing gift. When folks come to us, we try to provide those wraparound services. Case management, counseling are both offered on site in our emergency shelter. We have dedicated children's programming to make sure that children's educational and social needs are met. We work with the Mountain Child Advocacy Center to address traumatic response that happens among the children. And so we do provide that full kind of cohort of services, as well as basic needs, food, clothing, toiletries, transportation assistance to the folks who are staying in our shelter. Right now, our capacity is 20 beds. Out of that, we serve an average of about 7,000 bed nights per year. Our average length of stay is just under 40 days, and that ebbs and flows depending on how quickly we're able to move people into permanent housing. That enables us to serve somewhere between 200 and 225 people in an average year. We far exceeded that during the pandemic. But as we move back into our regular shelter, that capacity will once again reduce until we are able to build a bigger building. We've appreciated the Cdbg investment in this critical infrastructure and the recognition that it does not just change, but also save lives. This is one of the main sources of city support for Helpmate's programming. And so we've been grateful to see a continued commitment, and we'll be grateful if that commitment continues into the future. There's much more I could say, but I won't. I'm happy to stop now and take your questions so that I don't have to hear Paul's buzzer.
Thank you, April. Any questions for the applicant on this particular application? I'm intrigued to hear that you have long-term plans for a larger shelter. Good. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions for you, April. Thank you for being here and presenting twice today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Paul, who's next?
Next up, we've got Homeward Bound with their acquisition for permanent supportive housing. I believe Santiago from Homeward Bound will be presenting.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. My name is Santiago Celi. I'm the Facilities and Housing Development Director in Homeward Bound. And thank you for the opportunity. Our mission in Homeward Bound is to prevent and end homelessness through housing and support. So to that end, we submitted an application to support the acquisition of a property that we have been under contract for like 5 months now. It's the Daisy Hotel on Tunnel Road. This site will serve as our complex that has room not only for 85 permanent supportive housing units, 85 efficiencies, but also for on-site staff, supportive staff, case managers, and other Homeward Bound staff, as well as space for other community partners to come and provide other very necessary services like counseling and therapy and physical health and mental health and peer support. All of these services which are a must to have on-site and available to the residents in order for them to be successful in the transition from living on the street to sustaining a safe and decent home, place to call home. In addition, the site will provide both a great deal of interior and exterior common areas for diverse common activities, meetings, and library with computers, and maybe even some for job training and many other activities that will again be fundamental to the success of this transition. As we all know, we were reminded again last year with COVID that housing is healthcare, and of course, this site is targeted to the most vulnerable in our community, which are the folks experiencing chronic homelessness. Chronic homelessness means that you have been without a home or living on the street for at least 12 months, either in a row or in a period of 3 or 4 years. Again, these are the most vulnerable folks in our community with the highest needs when it comes to physical and mental health. So this will be a breakthrough project for our community, which is very needed indeed. I think that's pretty much in a nutshell a summary of the project. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Santiago. Any questions from the committee? I just have a couple comments. So Homeward Bound also had 3 home applications yesterday. In my notes, I'm actually having a hard time recalling, and I did not take detailed notes on what they were actually recommended for award. So Paul, can you speak to that? I know I'm looking at yesterday's. So we had an ask for $100,000 for tenant-based rental assistance, another 80 for Asheville tenant-based, and then there was an ask for this same for money towards the acquisition, and the request was $500,000. I can't remember. Did we award any towards the acquisition via home, or recommend award, I would say?
I'll take a quick look, but I believe we left 100,000 in that pot, but it was not towards acquisition. It was for rehab.
Right. I think so. Okay. If you could pull that up real quick, I would appreciate that so we can have the whole story. Because Santiago, I really love this project. I want to make sure that it happens. I am thrilled to see this model come into our community. I know it's a big leap for y'all. I did a tour and met with the team. I applaud y'all's efforts. What I'm getting at here is the big picture, and we have the Rescue Act coming into place, and, are there going to be capital stacks that make sense for the city to involve themselves in our home and Cdbg dollars the best use in light of this challenge we have in front of us, which is so many great programs and such little funding. So I'm just trying to get a clearer picture and how I can personally help support y'all's project happen, but also how it plays into this tier of applicants. So I know, did you find that yesterday, Paul? My notes have too many numbers for me to tell which was actually decided.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I did find the numbers, and apologies, Santiago. I think I got my numbers mixed up. I do not believe that there was, for the permanent supportive housing, for the rehab, they had requested $500,000, but there was a $0 recommendation there, but they were fully funded for the tenant-based rental assistance for Buncombe County, ask $100,000, award $100,000 for the Asheville-based tenant-based rental assistance for Homeward Bound, ask $80,000, award $80,000.
Okay, great. Thank you for that detail. I don't have any other questions for Santiago. Does anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you, Santiago. We appreciate you being
everybody.
here today again.
And next up, we've got Homeward Bound for their AHOPE coordinated entry, as well as their housing services for permanent supportive housing. I think Nicole is doing both of those. However y'all would like to do it, back to back, or if you want to ask questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, yes, I'm Nicole Brown. I'm the Deputy Director of Programs and Strategy for Homeward Bound. And I guess I'll just go ahead and talk about our 2 requests together. First, I'll start with the Cdbg funding request for permanent supportive housing. It is connected to the home TBRA funding that was recommended for $81,000 yesterday, which Paul was just referring to. So Homeward Bound works with the highest needs people experiencing homelessness in our community, and we'll be able to permanently end homelessness for 30 households with the home TBRA funding. And the Cdbg funding request will provide the vital case management support that is needed to keep these clients in housing. This funding will cover salaries for around 1.5 case managers to work with these clients on housing stability by connecting them with the vital community support such as mental health treatment, primary care, and substance use treatment. It will also cover half of the salary for a housing specialist. As I'm sure all of you know, affordable housing in our community is very, very difficult to find. It's even harder when you're working to house chronically homeless individuals who tend to have many barriers to obtaining housing, such as extensive criminal histories. So this position specifically works with building relationships with local landlords to house this incredibly vulnerable population in our community. So that is for the permanent supportive housing request. We also have a second request in for our AHOPE coordinated entry. AHOPE coordinated entry is how people experiencing homelessness in our community get connected to housing and supportive services. This is not just a process that is vital to moving people out of homelessness in our community. It is also a process that is required to bring in over $1.6 million to our community in HUD funding. It's also a critical part of our community's 5-year strategic plan on homelessness. We serve both individuals at risk of homelessness and those already experiencing homelessness by conducting assessments and referring people to housing based on their needs indicated by those assessments. Those assessed having the most needs are then referred to long-term supportive housing. Those with lower level of needs are referred to shorter-term supportive housing or general affordable housing in our community. We will use these funds to cover the salary and fringe benefits for one staff member to implement this vital and required coordinated entry system in our community. Yes, we definitely do ask for this funding every year, but it's desperately needed to implement this, coordinated entry for our community. Homeward Bound has to raise $315,000 in private funding in order to provide coordinated entry in Asheville. This process is staffed by only 5 case managers who not only provide the basic needs for over 150 homeless in our community daily, they were also able to, in the last 6 months, during a pandemic, while running an emergency shelter and warming center for those most vulnerable in our community, they were able to prevent homelessness for 18 people and move 103 people out of homelessness and into housing. 49 of those individuals were supported by AHO coordinated entry staff to find and obtain general housing in the community. So this is housing without supportive services or financial support. 54 individuals moved into one of our supportive housing programs. 23 of them moved into our permanent supportive housing program, which is long-term support and financial assistance. And 31 moved into our rapid rehousing program that provides short-term case management and financial assistance. So thank you so much for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nicole. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, so just to summarize, there were 3 home applications yesterday. There are 3 Cdbg applications today. I have one question for you, Nicole, because it might be, I'm getting a little confused across the 6 different applications. I apologize.
No problem.
So we recently, the city received CARES Act money and then the county received CARES Act money. Can you talk to whether or not that money received is also being used in a similar capacity? I'm wondering if, some of the unexpected awards of the year and this upcoming award to the community may actually layer in to what your ask is in a way that this ask may not be as necessary. Can you just speak to that? I'm not sure if I'm accurate.
I would love to. So yes, we did receive significant funding from the CARES Act for our rapid rehousing program. So those 31 individuals that were moved into rapid rehousing, that was made possible through that emergency funding. Now,
that was
for the
$200,000.
Okay. So the coordinated entry funding that we're asking for right now is for staffing for the process to get those clients into that housing resource. In order to get slated for a housing program and connected with housing, you have to go through this process, which involves an assessment and then collecting a lot of paperwork. You need to get IDs, birth certificates. You need to prove that someone has experienced chronic homelessness by reaching out to shelters or community partners that have worked with this client. So that process, we cannot get anyone into housing without that coordinated entry process. And it's not funded by other sources. I mean, we have to raise significant private dollars, like I said, $315,000 in order to be able to run the coordinated entry system, which again is required for our community to do. And AHO is the main source of that, or the main place that folks go to enter coordinated entry.
Okay, that really helps. I wonder, is that my sound? Sorry, I don't know if I just heard that or if y'all just heard that. So that does help explain. And so going forward, if more CARES Act money comes into the community, we may need to watch for administrative components of it, not just TBRA.
Exactly. There is a whole lot that goes into actually getting someone connected with those resources. And definitely that's something as an agency that we have really learned this year. We've taken on a lot with this extra funding and really tried to meet the needs of those in our community, but the cost and the staff, the manpower that is required to get these folks connected with these services is significant. And we definitely have to look at putting that in place in order to effectively run our coordinated entry system.
Thank you, Nicole. Any other questions for the applicant?
No, but I have a question for Paul. On our spreadsheet, a few organizations have an asterisk by their request, and I'm wondering if that asterisk is attached to home funds or maybe a match need.
Yeah, that's correct, Shanika. Those are the 3 Cdbg applicants that are connected to the home awards from yesterday.
Okay, helpful.
And
Okay.
say before we go to the last one, the last presentation, we have just a quick point of clarity that we talked about briefly yesterday, but a lot of discussion about the 1.9 trillion that got passed on a national level by the administration for relief. From what we spoke with HUD last Friday, from what we're hearing, and again, please don't take this from word, but from our HUD rep, the funding that would come, I believe, to the community development department, so separate than what the city is going to be getting, but the funding that we get about emergency rental assistance and homeless assistance that's going to be most likely coming through HUD. There's a lot of talk about this, it's going to arrive in 30 days. Our HUD rep wanted to make sure we know that there was going to be more to it than that, and that we could expect either the money or the regulations and guidance in early fall. So we'll continue to keep up with that, but just based on that point of clarity, it came up yesterday with Home on when we're anticipating it. Again, that's just from our HUD rep, not Bible there, but I think it's important just to clarify that for people who may be anticipating the money is going to be here perhaps sometime mid next month.
Very important to note. And I'm curious if there have been any indications this early on. I know we don't have a lot of information about whether or not that funding may include administrative capacity items to deploy programs.
It usually does, some administrative component to it, some percentage and everything, but we'll certainly be looking at that. And there's luckily some upcoming webinars on all of these things too.
Great, thank you. I think we're ready for the last applicant.
Yes, last but not least here is Pisgah Legal Services with their homelessness prevention project.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ben Manny. I am a program director at Pisgah Legal Services Homelessness Prevention Project. Robin Merrill is also here. My major role at Pisgah Legal is to advocate for families experiencing or at risk of homelessness, and training other advocates and volunteers to be able to do the same. Ms. Merrill she is much more in charge of our grants management and can answer more specific questions that you might have about that. I appreciate the comments of the Vice Mayor at the beginning of the meeting. I think in our country generally right now, we need to, in all of our civic discourse, sort of have an ethic of what have we tried before and what should we try in the future? And although Pisgah Legal has been funded, and HPP specifically has been funded by these funds in the past, what I think y'all should understand is that, yes, you're funding an organization with the same name year after year, but our organization, I believe this past year, we have gotten so much better at getting better. And I think the result is one of the most innovative legal services organizations in the state, if not the country. In the past year, we have, obviously, it's been a wild ride, and I am worried about what happens next week when the moratorium is set to expire. I was very hopeful that the president would comment on that in the press conference yesterday, but no one asked. But we don't know what's going to happen. I'll tell you that whatever happens, HPP, we're ready to stand with our neighbors in whatever comes next. This past year, I have trained so many volunteers and our other advocates that we're a well-trained staff and we're ready to meet that community need. I'll say that, Cdbg has been a bedrock of funding for this program over the past couple of years, probably before I arrived at Pisgah Legal. And I remember a couple of years ago, I came before you all as the program director. And at that time, I believe we were a program of one in Buncombe County. And if without Cdbg, we very well could have been a program of none. We are very good at leveraging that money with other funding sources. We have our community economic development program that does mentor other organizations. And there's crossover between HPP and that side of the house. And the Cdbg funds allow us to have the infrastructure to be able to do that. I don't know where I am on time, but I'll tell you that the deck is stacked against tenants in North Carolina. At the beginning of the pandemic, when the court shut down across the state, we saw 1,000% of what's called self-help evictions, where someone is just locked out of their home without process, their water is shut off. To resolve that, you have to have an attorney. I have to prepare about 7 pretty highly technical documents, and then I have to go run around the back halls of a courthouse to find any judge that'll listen to me. This cannot be done without an attorney. A private attorney costs about $250 an hour in Buncombe County. I can't afford that. And so our clients whose household income is about $15,000 a year, while monthly rent for a 2-bedroom at market rate in Buncombe County is $1,200, they can't afford that. They can't afford their rent as it is. So we are a unique service, a crucial service to advocate for the rights of our neighbors. And thank you so very much. And I'm available for any questions that you have, and Robin is here as well.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions for the applicant?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. Thank you all for doing the big lift. I think you all should be named a giant in helping us recover from COVID, all the work that you've done and continue to do. So it's much appreciated.
I'm honored to hear that. And I hope that we can keep on doing the big lift.
And I want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to help out with the financial assistance, because right now that is making a big difference for a lot of people.
It's crucial.
Great. I'll echo that gratitude. I know for those who are listening at home and not quite sure what we're talking about, when the CARES Act first distributed I think the first round we got was $615,000. We immediately passed 200 of it to Homeward Bound and 200 of it to Pisgah to assist the crises. And I don't think they sleep. They must not. I don't know how they continue to keep up. Y'all are an outrageous organization. I commend you on the work you're doing, and I appreciate the way you stepped up in a time of crises.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you all. We can go back to the committee and perhaps Paul and enter into the discussion. So we have a large task at hand. We have over $2 million in asks and $1 million to potentially award. So I would, I guess I would like to perhaps ask Paul to open up the spreadsheet that was part of the staff report. This is simply a draft and a starting point, and I would then ask my colleagues, fellow councilwomen, to start a discussion on how we want to navigate this. We basically can change anything on this spreadsheet, any dollar amount and award, and come together on a vote. And I think there's going to be a pretty interesting conversation. So maybe I will hush if Paul can pull it up, and maybe if one of y'all would like to start with your comments, that would be great.
So thanks, Sage. And Jonathan Jones from our team is sharing this spreadsheet. It is a copy here, so we can take a look at these amounts. And And when Jonathan gets a chance to make that a little bit bigger, and then just a friendly reminder about the public services cap, which is at $170,699. That is the one funding that just to be aware of. Otherwise, the applicants should all still be here on the line to answer any questions, as well as staff, and appreciate it. And a quick thank you to everybody who was able to present today. All the team members, long process application, everyone did a great job with the 3 minutes. So thank you to everybody there, and we'll be ready for questions.
I do have a question for you, Paul. You touched on it at the very beginning of the meeting. When it comes to applicants here who would also qualify for strategic partnership funds, just give me a briefing on that again, because I do believe strategic partnership funds will be readily available to organizations if they were awarded, but in this situation, they would have a wait before they can make their first draw. Could you just kind of touch on that again for me?
Sure. So as thanks, Vice Mayor Smith. And so as a quick reminder with strategic partnership funds, it's kind of been paused over the last 2 years as we, the city staff and partnership with Equity looked at the direction there. And it seems like the conclusion in working with the community is to move that to more closing the opportunity and achievement gap. The next step is, I think, some decision-making from city management, and then figuring out a way to move those to applications and then move that for funding. I would imagine, although that process can always be lengthy to a certain extent, that if that can get moving, that there would probably be a good chance, depending on some decision making there, that money would get to the agencies quicker than the community development block grant funding, which most likely would come in those contracts in late October, early November for the traditional cycle. And regarding eligibility, again, I don't want to get ahead of that. I think there's some decisions, and I think SBF has to go back through HCD, but it looks like the direction would be for closing the opportunity gap. So anyone education-based with some outcomes, I think would be eligible, but I appreciate you allowing me not to get too ahead of those decisions until they're passed by HCD and council.
This wouldn't be an either or. It could be a both and, correct?
It could be, yes.
Because I will just go ahead, even in light of the conversation, I'm experiencing some consternation at the notion of not funding, even at a smaller amount, both Partners Unlimited and Getting Back to Basics.
I echo that. So right away, we know we have two concerned about that. We can, I guess with the point of having Jonathan in this spreadsheet up is so that we can have Jonathan tweak numbers live and see how they impact. I know I have drafted a spreadsheet in front of me that looks different. Vice Mayor, do you have anything you want to suggest or sentiment you want to share before we get started?
No, but I do have another question for Paul, and I think it will be helpful to the committee. Paul, there are some organizations that are listed here who've made yearly requests but have not made a draw. And I know one of our organizations, they spoke on us getting, their situations was that we got our contract with HUD late in the year, but I think other organizations may have capacity issues, and that's why they aren't able to draw down on that money. Could you, it's a tough question. This has always been a really tough space to be in, but I think candidness would help us make good decisions.
Absolutely. And yes, this is always the nerve-wracking section of the potential questions, but the candor I think is really important. But for the most part of the agencies that are here today, things are moving along regarding previous year balances, not including the 2021 fiscal year with those contracts just happening last year. But for the most part, looking at balances, there is just, with Eagle Market Street, and they're a great agency, and Stephanie and her people there is an outstanding balance there. One thing that we asked for in the application, since that's Opportunity Asheville, is working with Carolina Small Business and Mountain BizWorks, is to kind of put together a letter confirming their partnership of really trying to work together between Mountain BizWorks, Carolina Small Business, and Eagle Market Street to support one another, and particularly to help out Eagle Market Street in better being able to move that funding. And so we did get that letter as part of the applicant that I think that Matt Raker drafted. So we're really glad to see that kind of like solidifying that partnership. It's already there, but kind of that commitment to work even stronger together to help Eagle Market Street. But that would be an example. They do have a balance out there of approximately, I believe, 103,000, which again, very difficult choices here. We greatly appreciate the work that they've done, but that was why we had a lower award amount for them this year, just to give them a chance to spend some of that previous funding. And is that helpful, Mayor Smith, what you were looking for to a certain extent?
Yeah, that's helpful. I think in years past, we've taken a small break here so that each person can kind of come up with their numbers. And I know
let me ask
different.
How's everybody on time? I think we were set to wrap at 12. We've got 20 minutes.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
more than happy to take a break. I can stay past 12. I don't know if others can.
I can.
Yeah, because I think what's happened in years past, we took a small break and then we each entered our numbers in separately. And then after we had everybody's numbers in, then we would come to what the final award would be. How do you all see us doing it this year, Paul?
No, we did 2 years ago. I think we did that, Vice Mayor Smith. But last year, we did not do it that way. Just for I think the sake of transparency, we heard some community feedback that y'all coming up with those numbers was they wanted something a little bit more transparent. I think everyone agreed. So, but again, difficult choices to make for you all, as much of the conversation is what we had internally.
Paul, are you able to stay on past 12?
Yes, and I think most of the team can as well.
Okay. Vice Mayor, how much time would you like for a break to sit with this?
At least 5 minutes for just for me. I don't know what you all need.
Councilwoman Mosley?
I mean, that is fine. I'm open to doing it either way, frankly.
Okay, so let's do a 5-minute break. It is 11:42. Let's make it an 8-minute break. Come back at 11:50. How about that? And it sounds like we have the option of adding columns and going individually, or perhaps we can have a discussion based. Vice Mayor, I see you saying yes, let's add columns. Councilwoman Mosley, do you have a perspective on that?
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm down for either way.
Oh,
whatever
okay.
the committee feels. I just want time to review my numbers.
Absolutely. So let's take a break right now and return at 11:50. And I will see you all in.
Can we leave this up on the screen even though we go away?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll see everyone at 11:50.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, looks like we are back. I feel like this is going to be a hard conversation as always. I really want to just restate an appreciation for all of the applicants and the good work that they're doing in the community. I mean, if we had all the money, we'd share it all. We'd, fund and award everyone we could. So here we go. Let's do what we can to help. Would either of you, fellow councilwomen, like to kick off with your thoughts?
I really didn't have too many changes. Actually, for the non-public service total, I don't have any real changes for that. But the two organizations, as I mentioned before, of interest to me are Project Lighten Up and Partners Unlimited. So I thought perhaps we could start with a $10,000 grant from them for them and make that up with the total for Pisgah Legal and Spark, $10,000 from each. So I believe each of those was 30. Maybe if we could move each of those to 20. That was my top of mind thought.
So if you'd like, we can start putting some numbers on the screen if you'd like, just to see what that looks like. Awesome.
Please,
Thank
please
you.
do. I had a similar sentiment. In fact, I was approaching this, I broke out another column and said for a percentage of the ask that they could be awarded, and then tried to award some funding to everyone. I understand the SPF may help with some of these more academic programs, but I personally feel the year we've had with the COVID and the chaos around schooling in general, that some of these academic programs are even more elevated in need. And I wanted to make sure that we supported them in some capacity as well.
And Councilwoman Turner, if I may, just 2 points from the city team and regarding these CDBG fundings, in the spirit of partnership here, but also, to be candid regarding, we do have, I think we've shown a really good effort of a commitment to capacity when it comes to trying to build capacity of our partners. We will continue to try to do that for anyone who isn't funded, to prepare them. And so I did want to put that out there like we did last year with the training, and we want to see what we can keep doing. Also, unlike what we've done with SPF funds in the past, where there were requests and then everybody got something, that's usually not a best practice mentioned with CDBG for the funding to be more strategic. We certainly understand the intent. We are right there with you that if we had all the money to be able to award everybody something, we absolutely would like to do that. We know there's folks doing good work. We tried to balance this out with all the factors we talk about in the staff memo, but it's not, with CDBG being very specific and strategic, we don't think it's a best practice. However, we will follow your lead. Often reminded that a $1,000 or contract takes as much work as a $100,000 contract. And but again, we're here for your guidance. But I did want to be able to, for the team, to put some clarity there. And I appreciate you all listening.
Thank you, Paul. I understand it's a huge lift for staff as well to even get us to this place. So I appreciate that. Vice Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to share or echo after Councilwoman Mosley?
No, my recommendation mirrors the recommendations of the department, but I will say that in that same spirit, in wanting to give or follow our investment as a city, I would like to go down to the non-public service request and to start the land trust off with $20,000. And we can borrow that 2010 from Opportunity Asheville and 10 from the Western Women's Business Center.
I like that idea, Shanika.
I think I have a similar sentiment in my figures, except that I fully funded the Community Land Trust at 40. My thinking was, and I know that Homeward Bound is on the call and may wince, but I promise to follow up with you. My thinking is that we will have opportunities to support the acquisition of the Days Inn in different capacities. I moved that to 100,000 for the particular, so line 26, it looks like. And I also fully funded the land trust. I also reduced Homeward Bound supportive housing, the 81,000 ask there, to 40,184. I left Eagle Street at 25, but those changes allowed everybody else to be fully funded in mine. So that moved the Mountain Biz to 120, the Western Women's Business to 120, Eagle Market at 25, which I want to say I appreciate their work. That is simply based on the $103,000 balance that is remaining. I moved the Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity to 128, fully funded Ywca, fully funded Helpmate, fully funded Land Trust. I had Homeward Bound at the 40,184, 100 for the acquisition, and fully funded Mountain Housing.
Okay, I'm not sure staff followed you there.
I'm sorry. So basically what I did was say that I believe we will get long-term funding to help with the acquisition for Homeward Bound, and that could be 100. And then I said the $81,000 ask from them, I think will also have other monies in this recovery planning. So I put that one to 40,184. Then I left Eagle Street at 25 and fully funded the rest. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, it would be, if you fully funded everyone, thanks for bearing with me. I know it's hard live. Left Eagle Street at 25, 128, full, you got it right there. That should be, why do I have a balance? I don't have a balance on mine, 120, 120, 128. Oh, Buncombe 40. The land trust fully funded, and both those fully funded. Everything else fully funded. So Helpmate 49,241, land trust 40. Yep, that's right. That should 95 for the last one. Yep. And y'all, I mean, now critique away.
I can vibe with it. My only question is the funds that are coming, are they guaranteed to allow spending on salary? Because I think some of these are salary requests that we have here.
Right.
So Paul, do you have your, her name is skipping my head, but the funds that are coming through the federal government, can you use those funds for salaries or only services?
Are you talking about the American Rescue Plan or for that funding? I don't know yet how that's going to come down. We're assuming there's some administrative funding there that will happen and some outside of services, but I don't want to speculate. Most of the COVID dollars, there's some administrative expenses that can happen, but mostly that is for services.
Okay. So, but does my comment make sense to where you're going, Sage?
It does, and I'm very hopeful, and I know there are no guarantees with the rescue plan. I am hopeful that should large amounts of money be doled into communities at the rate that it is, that they would include administration capacity building. I mean, we're getting $26 million. I hope that there's money to administer that. It's a bet. I guess it's an unknown. I recognize that. I also recognize that we didn't fully fund the home dollars for Homeward Bound yesterday or support their acquisition money. Or we did fully fund their support money, I'm sorry. So this ties to that as well. And that's just my input. I'm happy to change it if needed.
And to go along with yesterday, this is where Homeward Bound, maybe if they wanted to talk about what would be best regarding where they would prefer their funding to go, whether that's housing services. I would be remiss, I think, to say, and I want to say this first, we greatly appreciate our partners very, very much, but it has the Community Land Trust, who we greatly support. They did receive the bond funding of $1 million and $100,000 for supportive staff. That has come up in conversations. So that was one for our reason from staff there to see where other support could come in. However, Anna is absolutely welcome to address that. But just so you all know from our perspective as a staff, that's where we came in with that, because they've been supported with bond funding and housing trust fund dollars, $1.1 million.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, yes, I would just like to respond to that if I'm able to. Definitely, we do not have other funding options for case management. In fact, that's probably one of the hardest things for us to find funding for. All of this money that has come into our community is really for financial support for clients, and for with this new funding coming up, again, is for development and acquisition and not for case management services.
Very helpful. Thank you, Nicole. To Paul's point, yesterday we asked the same very challenging question of them yesterday. If we were looking at both and couldn't do both, is there one that is more important than the other at this time? Nicole, if you're still on, if you can speak to that, and if you can't, I totally understand.
Yes, I definitely think that we would rather fully fund our case management services over the acquisition costs, because we do think there might be some funding coming forward for that, but definitely the case management support is what we need right now.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. That isn't easy. So with that input, then perhaps we would move the 81 to the full 81. And then we have a choice. Do we reduce their permanent supportive housing ask? Do we reduce the land trust? I would look to my fellow councilwoman on this.
I like to sit with it for a while, but just off the cuff, I would go back to the award that we gave Opportunity Asheville and Western Women's Business Center, because I'm looking at the nature of funding that's coming in COVID response, and small businesses do get a lot of infusion. So just trying to free up some of our dollars in light of monies that could come and advance their outcomes.
So are you suggesting that those two perhaps are reduced back down to 100, and that gets us within $800 of a balance?
Yeah, that'll work us out then.
Okay. Councilwoman Mosley, are you good with that change?
Absolutely.
Okay. Jonathan, if you could do that. So we have an $1,816 to pull from somewhere. I am inclined, because of the $103,000 balance, to pull it from the Eagle Market Street. Any thoughts?
You're giving me pause there. Give me a second.
That's fine. And if we, I have comments about the top chunk as well, the public services portion. If we want to sit with this for a minute, we could.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Jumping back up to the public services, I was trying to get each of the education component ones to the $12,000 mark, purely so that there was $1,000 a month in theory to be administered and help. And I recognize that some of these programs are maybe funded later by SPF, and I would surely love to support them even more. That's just where I was starting thinking, but I can move forward with what's in front of us. I was challenged by not supporting the Mother Love program, and I just don't like seeing any blanks. I was excited to see that Green Opportunities is back and has new leadership and is feeling ready to go. Pun intended. I wasn't sure if we wanted to fund them at all. I think you all, fellow councilwomen, got to the gist, the underlying core value here I was getting to myself, which is I wanted to see these academic programs receive some funding.
One explain further how you got to what your tricks were to 12 for everybody? Where did
Sure. And, I do math for a living, so I may be looking at this very linearly. So I was looking at percentages that they would get of their award. I had, so the 3 academics, Project Lighten Up, Partners Unlimited, and YTL at 12,000. I have, I reduced some of here was the big one. For PISGA, this was about homeless prevention. And I again thought of the monies from the CARES Act in the upcoming recovery or rescue plan money, and thinking that they will be a very obvious partner in those funds. And I know that work is critical right now, so I don't want to put them in jeopardy, but I did think that there would be additional funding to them, and they're still spending down some funding we've given them. And I don't know if they would like to speak to that, but I had moved them to 25,000 to allocate to other things, and that was including Go. So let me ask this. Are we, as a group, the 3 of us, do we want to try and give Go a little bump, or are you guys okay with letting them find their footing for a while and maybe looking again next year?
No, I actually want to support Go. And that's why I started off with the line of thought. If our organizations that are academically focused would later receive dollars from strategic partnership, it won't feel as if they're leaving without anything. Because, Paul, didn't we used to do strategic partnership and Cdbg the same day?
Pretty much, that's correct. Yeah. And again, there is about $400,000 there, procedural questions there on how exactly that'll get out of the gate. But there is that funding for some of these organizations that, again, the compliance there in the past was much lighter than the requirements required from HUD. So I appreciate y'all keeping that in mind for these awards.
And the SPF funding will come to these 3 same counselors via HCD, correct?
So, and that's why I was just imagining, just imagine that strategic partnership funding, the funding decision was this same day, and they're easier to obtain. There are not a lot of funding requirements and reporting to do. It's a fairly smooth process. And that's why in my mind, I kind of shifted them into that other funding decision so that we can stand up Go Corps, because Go Corps needs to probably be stabilized in order for them to move into their Haywood trades program. And that was my thinking around,
I'm not sure if anyone sees, but Robin Merrill has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I did not see that. Robin, please go ahead.
Thank you. And I want to say that we will be grateful for whatever your final decision is. But I did want to point out that we have previously been SPF grantees. And with the changes in that program, we're no longer eligible to apply for those funds. And so sometimes those funds have been used to kind of augment what we receive through the Cdbg process. So it's a little bit of a double hit to not be eligible for SPF and to have, our request reduced so much here. And I have so much sympathy for you in the public service category, because there's nothing here that's bad. There's no agency that doesn't deserve this funding and wouldn't use it very well. But if you could keep us at the 20 or 25, we'd really appreciate it. In terms of future funding, the rental assistance has been wonderful, and it does come with a little bit of admin money, but it really goes toward the administration of that. The Cdbg funds we typically use for our staff salaries to actually, do the client-related work. So we're using it for very different things. If recovery funds, include legal services as an eligible component, and we don't know at this point, then we certainly would be happy to take some of that instead of this. But I just felt like I needed to point out that we're no longer eligible for SPF, and it's just a hit in a tough time.
And I hate to hear that. I thank you for sharing. I didn't realize that. So I see a question. Could Go Corps fit under the SPF? I'm not sure.
I don't, again, going by what is on paper now, not yet approved by HCD or council, it's really about closing the opportunity gap in schools. I don't know if that would align with where green opportunity is, but if Ben wants to answer that questions. Two quick comments from staff is just receiving text from the team about the importance of community development block grant being used to fund results and outcomes, not necessarily as stabilizing dollars. And I have a hard question back for you all, which is with Partners Unlimited, which again, great group, we support our partners. We were very specific in our communication timeline, which was fairly lengthy, that we were sharing about applications, deadlines, getting information back to us, just from a process and procedure standpoint. And I apologize for the difficult question, but with us not receiving that back from Partners Unlimited, although we just got the information now, it sets a precedent of it's okay to, these deadlines and stuff, which could come back to haunt us later. And I apologize for that tough question. It's just very, we have a team that we really like to try to more flexible, but follow those processes and procedures, because it sets the tone and also reminds folks that the application itself, as well as the response, is to be used as a factor in can they be capacity ready to go. And so I feel it's important to point that out in the fairness to everyone. And Partners Unlimited has raised their hand, which is great. They're totally welcome. Please respond.
Are you on there, Partners Unlimited? Go ahead.
And Partners Unlimited, if you can hear us, I'm not sure who's on, but you're muted.
Yeah, I can't see them right now. I may be able to unmute them. Nope, I can't. Partners Unlimited, if you can unmute yourself and even turn off your computer, we would welcome hearing from, or not your computer, but your video. We would welcome hearing from you. I see you, Ben. Just one second. Okay, while they figure that out, let's maybe hear from Ben. I think there was a question about them being eligible. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, thanks. No, we certainly appreciate the focus on the academic areas. As a longtime educator, addressing the opportunity gap is something that we all support. I would just remind the committee that our targeted population is what AmeriCorps calls opportunity youth. So many of these are high school dropouts, folks working on their GED, and are from marginalized communities, obviously. So this is, we're a job training education entity as well, and we're addressing youth that otherwise would be in school. So that won't be the entirety of our Go Core membership, but it is certainly a priority in our recruitment process. So I just would offer that. I can't speak to the strategic partnership. Being so new to this role, I'd need to study the criteria of that application to make sure how we fit. And I appreciate the Vice Mayor's comments around adding stability to us as we regroup. But, the Highway Trades Academy is a program we're excited about. But that's an entity that stands on its own, and we're very excited about Go Core. We appreciate that sentiment, but we respect this group reviewing each program independently. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. I didn't see Partners Unlimited jump back in. I am willing to share how I got to my numbers, or if you all are both feeling comfortable with it as is, maybe give me a nod and we could move to a motion. I guess we're not quite ready for a motion because we have that lingering $800 still. Up to y'all. I'm happy to share my list like I did the last time. I'm also happy to move forward with this if that's what the two of you would like to do. I'm not hearing a response.
And just that 816 would not be public services, it would come out of the housing services, et cetera.
I understand. Okay, so right now, what we're looking at under the public services is still a 0 next to YTL and a 0 next to YMCA's, Mother Love, YWCA's, and a 0 for Go. Are the two of you ready to move forward on those, on this particular as is list?
Shanika, I'm certainly open to the discussion about where other funds could come from to support. Other than
looks like Partners Unlimited has joined the meeting, just FYI to everybody.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. I think I hear an echo. It probably means you have YouTube open as well. Technology.
I'm telling you.
I'm kind of digging it.
Wish you had more money.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Perfect.
All right. I apologize. My computer went out. The plug wouldn't work. Okay. You don't want to hear all of that. But you had a question for me about efficiency, expeditiously turning in information. What happened with that? And I'm not making an excuse. When we would submit the information, we were told that it was not received, even though it would show that we had sent it. So that was the problem. And in our conversation between Anderson and myself, we just said we would walk it up there from now on. Of course, with the COVID epidemic, that wasn't possible. But what can I say other than we're going to do better forever? That's all I can say.
Thank you for that. This speaks a little to what I was saying in the beginning of the meeting. You know, sometimes when I've been working and volunteering in the housing issues for Asheville for so long, and I just know it's one of our deepest, truest needs, and it's connected to so many other community issues. So I worry that we don't have enough capacity and staffing to do all the great things we could be doing. And so I wonder, you know, to my fellow councilwoman, as we look down the road at budgeting and this housing and all this CARES money coming in, if we don't need to recommend a position that helps some of these key partners and their great programming be more prepared. You know, to have a person like an ombudsman that helps get this program, you know, it's a huge lift for staff that already have like 50 other huge lifts going on. And I'm just kind of planting a seed for that because, you know, having someone that could have sit with Partners Unlimited and said, you know, we didn't get the email, we got the email, let's figure out why, or I'll meet you and pick up the documents. You know, some of those things I think just really would help because I know I can sense from our group that we really want to help these agencies that are, you know, are doing such great things, but maybe aren't familiar with the bureaucracy and all these check boxes and things. It's just a little crazy, I know. So a seed for later. It does sound like this applicant attempted to get the documents in, and I can appreciate that.
And I won't belabor that point, 30 seconds from a staff perspective. And I think Vice Mayor Smith, you'll remember this, but like thumbs up on what we did this past October because so many people joined the Cdbg training, which was great. But before that, we used to do capacity building and board things. And if you remember, we tried to offer different times. Not a lot of people were able to show up. And that's certainly not the fault of our partner agencies. Everyone is just so busy and finding a time, which is why this internal discussion has happened. I don't want to speak out of turn about, is there the possibility of some kind of funding, a conduit who can help build the capacity of some of our agencies in the community, particularly our Black and Brown agencies and nonprofits who are really trying to get themselves available for funding. And I think it would be a worthwhile discussion from a staff perspective, if that's okay to add my professional opinion there.
Thank you, Paul.
Because I don't think Kathy's on, so I don't want to speak too freely there, but it would make a lot of sense.
All right, fellow councilwoman, would you like to make any changes to this particular set of public service potential awards?
I think I'm fine with it. We just have to determine where we're going to shed a few pennies off so that we won't have that remaining balance.
You're back down at the housing?
Yeah, I can live with the top.
Okay.
I would like to come up with some ways to share funding with Go Corps, but I think Ben was very honest in giving us his take on it.
Okay. Councilwoman Mosley?
Remind me again the amount that needs to be shifted in the non-public service total. Is it 800 something?
Yeah, that little red number, 816. We're trying to get that to a 0. So someone has to give up $816 there.
Could we do the community land trust?
We can. Vice Mayor, are you okay with that? Jonathan, if you could make that change. Okay, and I would like just 1 minute to review these public service and the differences I had and see if I have any last comments. Okay, I can move forward with this. If that is where you two are also at, then I think we might be there.
I'm fine.
I was trying to squeeze out a little for a YTL, but I can move forward with this.
So can I.
Okay. I know this is hard. I think we're there, and I would entertain a motion. I'm happy to make it if needed.
I'll make a motion to accept the awarded numbers submitted by the committee for the 2001-2002 Cdbg award.
I'll second.
Great. Even though there's 3 of us, we still need a roll call vote. So, Vice, I'm sorry, there's no public comment, right? We're not taking public comment today. Okay. All right. So, Vice Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Myself, Sage Turner. Aye. All right, y'all. I think this is, I could feel the heart and thought in this, and I really appreciate everybody's time, all the applicants' applications, and for my fellow councilwomen, I appreciate the way we tackled this. Thank you for your work.
I know, or Councilwoman Turner, I know you're going to wrap us up in just a minute. I just wanted to say thank you to you all, and specifically to you and Vice Mayor Smith and Councilwoman Mosley. If you have any suggestions on anything regarding this that you think could be better or anything, please let us know. We are going to do our Emily post after this and send out thank you notes to all the people that did apply and ask the same questions on anything they think we could do better for next year. A commitment from our team, but thank you for your time. And again, we're very open to suggestions, please. Maybe not today, but tomorrow or Monday.
Thank you so much, Paul. And to all the staff that really did the heavy, heavy lift of getting us here. And I believe that is all I have. Any final comments from other councilwomen?
The bottom part of your script, Councilwoman Turner.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I have
Thank
a script.
you.
My mistake. 1 second. forgot. Okay. Oh boy. All right. Just going to share a little more information on the funding and choices for the community. So for those interested in the next steps with this funding, these funding recommendations, along with yesterday's funding recommendations by the National Regional Housing Consortium for Home Dollars, will be presented to City Council at our regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, April 13th. We will have a final vote at Council Tuesday, May 11th on these funds. These allocations are reported in our HUD Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 21-22. Annual action plans provide a concise summary of the actions, activities, and the specific federal and non-federal resources that will be used each year to address the priority needs and specific goals identified by our HUD's 5-year consolidated plan. With that, I think we are ready to adjourn the meeting. And it's a beautiful day outside. I hope everyone can get away from the screens for just a little bit. Thank you all for your hard work today. With that, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.